What's up, Jeff?
I'll bring a picture over to you. Open up the inside.
I can help you out.
Okay, I can do it.
Yeah.
You want to see it? Yeah. Okay.
All right. Got 3 more people.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been here before?
No.
You used to come here.
Nisha? I don't think so.
lived in,
No. They might be on the. They might be tuning in though to the live stream. They might be tuning in to the live stream though.
like set up like ping pong tables and stuff. Yeah, this would be open until this is really cool.
What's up, YouTube? What I said? What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube?
So we'll start in about 10 minutes.
Starting in about 10 minutes. Let's
Yeah.
go. You like it?
Is this a vegan pizza place or
No.
they have vegan options?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I do really want to go, right? But I told you what time I got home last night. 4:45.
You got home at 4:55.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna go out today like so much?
No, I actually want to.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like really nice out.
Yeah.
It's Halloween. Like, I'm all about it, but you know, I'm just saying, like, we gotta see.
Oh, all the time.
I
It's
might
like
wear,
weird.
like,
When people ask you what's the meaning of
I
that?
might
I have so many stories you have no idea. This shirt is all the shirts that I have. Generation
I
most.
slept through like a 5.
Yeah. And now I just recently bought another one, the Elwood's, Elwood's
Yeah,
dog
dog
meat.
meat, yeah.
It says delicious dog since 1968 or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That one generates a lot of views. Between that one and this one,
Sleep cycle here.
Yeah, no, I know
That would be
firsthand.
very curious to know,
So we'll see.
how the end.
Are you?
yeah, I have a story about that because somebody asked me the other day. They thought it was a shirt for
Yeah, well, I love
dog,
hanging out with y'all. I have
for dog food.
like
They're like, oh, where can I get that?
I have a
I'm thinking, YouTube.
Yeah.
What you do? And I'm like, but I played it off. I'm like, oh, you just go to Elwood's, whatever it is, I think
Tell
Elwood's.com.
my parents that it's
Just order it online.
Oh, you have to-
Oh, yeah, I'm looking to change my dog's diet.
Yeah,
I want to get some dog food. And I'm like, no. This is dog meat for human consumption. For I was like, what? And then we had a really, I didn't outreach her. I actually left it at that because I know I'm going to see her again. I'm looking curious. She wrote down the website. She's like, I don't know. She's like, you can dog. She's like, give me this. And so I want him to start like thinking. So next, when I come back and I see her in a couple weeks, I'm gonna see what's up. I was here, another guy was listening to our conversation. That works here also.
Yeah.
And I saw him again a few days later, and I was wearing this shirt. So he saw the Elwood shirt, and he was listening. Now he saw this shirt. She wasn't there. So he's like, he forgot. He didn't realize it was me.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So he read my shirt.
I
and he's
saw
like,
it, I saw Facebook.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
I saw you.
Started to talk to him. He's like, wait a minute, you were here the other day with that green shirt, weren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. The old shirt that you here. I need to start finishing it.
It's a very good
Yeah. And I had a really good conversation with him after that.
Yeah.
So he's been vegan since he's born?
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool, dude.
I wish I was.
That is so cool. Good on you. You're his mom, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. I've never met anyone who's vegan since they're born.
I know. I wish I was.
We've all been vegan since we were born. Seven. The only difference is that we haven't been living vegan. But we've all been vegan. We've all been vegan.
But he was never tainted.
Correct.
He never got
I know what you mean. I'm just my niece, she's 7 and she's vegan since birth.
Right.
The good thing is my mother.
So do you have a vegan family?
My whole family is vegan. I don't know
No.
how lucky I got, but
No,
yeah.
you're kidding.
Everybody, like, both my parents, their spouses, both my brothers and their whole family.
You're not serious, right?
I'm very serious.
My whole family.
Can I join your family?
Absolutely.
I'm like 65% serious.
Yeah. No, my mother is so good. She was like, I became vegan when I was born. So she would invite people over, so they would chop milk down my food.
I don't think I should go and see it.
Yeah.
And now she's in touch with my
Oh, that's awesome, yeah. I'd love to do that.
And then, yeah, we'll split off in the cities.
More people would be talking like people, but.
Yeah, I haven't really,
What's your costume?
Really? Okay.
Show me to see it, but I don't, yeah. Monday's Halloween.
Is this an AV event?
No.
They're not.
No, but I use the AV slides.
Yeah. Are you an AV organizer?
I'm an AV organizer.
Monday, oh, Tuesdays.
In Miami, right?
Yeah.
Do you know for us? In Austin? Yeah, I'm AV in Austin.
There will be something
I'm
going
sorry?
on.
I'm from AV in Austin.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I know Faraz really well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
The
came
thing
to
is,
Miami
like, on Thursday,
maybe like a year and
He
a
goes
half.
all around. He's so on top
and
of it.
it's like.
He's the doctor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he actually reached out.
You met him?
Yes.
He's cool. He's
He's
very cool guy.
amazing. I love him. He reached out to me through Messenger. He
Yeah.
was like, hey, I'm coming to Miami. You want to have lunch? And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
You know, he works in a biomedical research facility and he saves the mice.
That's awesome.
He saves the mice and he puts them in his house. And he has, I've been to his house and he has like a whole cage where he has the mice that he saves.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, he's awesome.
He's on tour with Tamari right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tamari told me.
What?
Are you
He takes the
recording?
mice from the labs and he
Are we
saves
live?
Yep.
Ow.
Okay, I have to be careful what I say. Let me know whenever you think we should get started, Maurice.
Yeah.
This is your thing. I'm just a guest.
Yeah, I think we have.
Maurice, you want to do a little introduction?
Huh? Oh, okay.
For Ron?
Do you know if anybody else is like parking or right around the corner or anything, or?
Well, Rachel said she was gonna come.
I know one person told me that they were definitely coming, but they're not, they're not here yet, but.
Okay. I mean, I can wait another 3 minutes. I mean, I can wait all night, but I don't know if people get restless.
I don't like to wait, I think we should start and then.
Okay, so why don't we start at 7? It's 3 minutes.
Okay.
Is there some water here in case somebody wants some?
Yeah, just watch yourself here because there's like.
Do you want us to Venmo you anything for the pizza? Yeah? That's cool.
It's not my fault.
I'm tired, but I got my bike. You're gonna go out, right?
You know what time I got home?
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
4:45. Yeah. You know what I did this time? I parked my car about a
That's fine,
block.
you can just jump in, it's not a big
So now I
deal.
have to walk an hour.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
That's what I had to do last night.
You're
I
gonna
had, yeah.
Alright, y'all. Thank you for coming out here. I really was so excited for about a month for Juan to come out and do this. And a lot of, this has been a little bit rushed for me also, as things I've been going through and stuff. But I'm glad you came out here. Thank you, Juan. When I met Juan in Miami, I thought that him coming out here to do workshops would be like an amazing idea. And when I asked him, we were like totally cool with it. And we're here doing it today. Super happy and excited. Woo! Yeah.
Thank you, Juan.
I'm excited to learn new things. I'm happy and excited for you guys to learn new things. I hope this could be like a continuation thing. Like we could do this every month, maybe. But yeah, I mean, this place is awesome. Everyone, cheers.
Thank you, Juba.
Thank you, Drew. I want to thank Jeff for being my mentor and pushing me to do this and being there every step of the way. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you all for being here on a Halloween weekend. I'm sure you all want to party. Somebody looks like he's ready to party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank Maurice for inviting me to come. When we did meet, we did talk about potentially doing this, and I thought it was a great idea. I do travel around the country occasionally to different chapters, different cities, and do this workshop. You may have seen it. It's on YouTube through AAM, Animal Activism Mentorship. I did this same workshop. And, you know, I enjoy coming out and basically sharing my experience on how to be an effective outreacher, because when I first started, and probably all you can relate, like, you know, I was very shy, very timid. I didn't know how to outreach. I didn't know. I was afraid I might say the wrong thing. I might not know the right answer. And so, like, I was very scared. So the purpose of this workshop is to kind of help activists become more comfortable and confident in their outreach. And there's some tools and tricks, if I can call them, tricks in the trade, on how we can handle certain situations, certain conversations. Even if we don't know the answer, there's always a default answer that I go to. No matter what the objection is, you can always fall back on, and we'll get into it, we can always fall back on a very simple response to any objection. So that's the beauty of it. I went vegan 8.5 years ago. I've been an activist for about 8 years now. And outreach is one of my favorite forms of activism. Obviously, there's many, many ways to be active. So I co-organize and run SoFlo Animal Rights, which is South Florida Animal Rights in South Florida. And we do all kinds of things from disruptions to protests to outreach events, educational events. And so we're very active in that sense. So outreach isn't the only form of activism. As you know, there's many, many forms. However, I do like to say that outreach is not just AV, or it's not just street outreach, right? Anytime you talk to anybody at any time about animal rights, that's a form of outreach. It could be one-on-one, it could be talking to a group of people, it could be in front of a screen like AV does or other organizations do. This is the AV workshop, they put it together, so I like to use it as a foundation, as a structure to kind of go through certain topics. It's not necessarily an AV event. Somebody was asking me that earlier. I don't know if all of you are with AV or not, but, and also there's been some, you know, some people have certain feelings about AV because of certain rumors or things that have happened. Just put that aside for a second. The content that I'm going to share with you is what's important, and it's very, very good and solid. So whatever your ideas are about AV, put that to the side and just, you know, take what you can from this workshop. And again, this is kind of informal, so if you have a question, you want to raise your hand, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll be happy to respond. We can also take questions at the end. The idea here is that I'm going to do about maybe an hour, hour and a half presentation. It probably won't be an hour and a half, maybe more like an hour. And then we can do some role-playing exercises, like if you have some difficulty in certain situations or with certain objections, if you want to come up here and kind of role-play with me, I can pretend to be the outreacher, or I can pretend to be the person being outreached. And we can kind of like, or we can do both and see how we handle the situation. So that's the plan for tonight. I don't have a set schedule. We originally blocked off 4 hours, but however long it's going to be, it's going to be. I want to thank Druva, did I say that correctly? Sorry. For allowing us this beautiful space to share this. It is a very, very beautiful space. It's got the right vibe for what we're doing. And I'd like to thank Maurice again for putting this together and inviting me out here. And with that, I'll just get started. Does anybody have any questions or anything you'd like to start off with? Good? Okay. So, we'll get started. And I guess we're also we're live, correct? Cool. So, I wouldn't focus too much on the screen because it's more talking points for me. It's like a reminder for me to say certain things. So, you don't have to, if you can't see the screen, don't worry about it. So basically, the first slide says, what is veganism? Now, I'm asking a bunch of, I'm guessing everybody here is an animal rights activist? Yeah? Okay. So I'm asking animal rights activists, what is veganism? That sounds kind of silly, right? Why would I ask animal rights activists what is veganism? But the truth is that if you ask a bunch of people, what is veganism, you're going to get a bunch of answers, you know? That is true also within the animal rights community. Like, you'll ask 100 different activists, what is veganism, and you're going to get 100 different answers. That's what I believe. Now, I think that as the movement grows, we kind of start to converge and understand what veganism means. And when I first started, in fact, when I first started with AV, I don't know if you remember their logo at the bottom said health, environment, and it said animals, health, environment. And a few years later, they removed health and environment and just, they took that part out, not just as an honest for voices. Now, why did they do that? They've also evolved over time. Although there are links to health and environmental issues within veganism, veganism is not about those things. Veganism is really about animal rights. It's not a diet, as you all know. It's not about health, as you all know. And it's not about the environment, although going vegan and eating a plant-based diet greatly helps your health and the environment, potentially, right? Because I always tell people I could be a very unhealthy vegan. I could eat Oreo cookies and potato chips all day, and I'm not healthy, but I'm vegan. So vegan and health don't go hand in hand unless you make a conscious effort for it to go hand in hand. So when you're outreaching somebody and they start talking about health, you can respond to their genuine questions about health. If they have concerns like where do you get your protein, that's a legitimate question. Maybe they don't know where protein comes from. You can go ahead and respond. But the idea is that we don't want to focus our conversation on these topics. We want to focus our conversation on the animals and on the idea that animals have rights, basic, universal rights, just like all of us. They have the right to exist. They have the right to exist free from oppression, free from exploitation, free from harm, free from torture, free from enslavement, and free from being killed for unnecessary reasons. And that's my definition of veganism, is that it only has to do with animal rights. And that's the focus when we talk about animal rights. That's what we need to focus on so that the person that we're talking to understands clearly so that when they walk away from the conversation, they're not confused about what veganism is. So I like to tell people immediately when they, and I tell them, I say, it's not your fault. You know, veganism in mainstream society is seen as a diet. There is pescatarian, there's vegetarian, there's vegan, right? There is a vegan diet, but really we all know it's a plant-based diet. Veganism as a word means to be against animal use and animal abuse, and to live in accordance with that, right? Somebody said earlier, this gentleman over here, your name? Nirvan? You're vegan since birth, correct? Right, so somebody said earlier, oh, I've never met a vegan from birth, and I kind of jumped in and jokingly said, hey, we're all vegan from birth, right? Because veganism, the difference between Nirvan and all of us is that he's living vegan. We were all vegan, and we've been vegan our whole lives, but we haven't been living vegan, right? Does that make sense? Because veganism is an understanding that we don't have the right to harm others if it can be avoided. It's as simple as that. And by others, I mean animals, right? Non-human animals. The movement is focused on non-human animals. So because that's true, I consider myself, when I went vegan 8 years ago, and I made the connection and this kind of epiphany, and like the whole world opened up to me. I was like, wait a minute, I'm vegan. It wasn't even a choice. I didn't say, oh, I'm gonna go vegan, or none of that happened. I understood and became vegan in that moment when everything connected, and then I realized, wait a minute, I've actually been vegan my whole life, but because I didn't know these things, I wasn't living vegan. So, and the reason that's important is because 99% of society that's not vegan, you know, they are vegan at heart. And I tell people this during outreach conversations, you know, especially if they're open and listening. I'm like, listen, you're actually vegan at heart. You're pre-vegan. Everybody here is pre-vegan. You just haven't been given the opportunity to think about how your actions are not in alignment with your own values. Because people, what do non-vegans always accuse us of? Shoving our beliefs down their throats, right? So when somebody says that to me, or even if they don't say it to me, if I'm outreaching somebody, and I'm like, you know, we get accused of shoving our beliefs down your throat all the time. But the truth of the matter is that we're not shoving our beliefs down your throat, we're shoving your beliefs down your throat. We share the same beliefs. We're not trying to change people's beliefs. That is key. We're not trying to change people's beliefs. We're trying to change their behaviors. We're trying to change their actions. Because we all believe the same thing, that causing unnecessary harm is morally wrong if it can be avoided. That's a belief that we all share. So when I talk to somebody, in my mind, I'm not trying to change their beliefs. I'm trying to get them to recognize that they're not living in alignment with their own beliefs, with their own values. So something that I like to say during outreach conversations, and again, you'll hear me say certain things like, in all outreach conversations that I have, I usually say the same things. It doesn't matter what they're coming at me with. I usually say certain key things, and I think that if you like what you're going to hear, that you should start to employ that into your conversations, because I think it's very, very powerful. So I'll say something like, listen, I'll do this at an ABQ, and there's a bunch of people walking around. I'm like, look, if you ask 100 random people walking here, if you go and survey them, and you ask them, excuse me, are you for or against animal abuse? What do you think they're going to say? So the person I'm outreaching says, oh yeah, they're going to say they're against animal abuse. Well, exactly. And are those my beliefs or their beliefs? Right? So I'm making a point that being against animal abuse is not a belief that we don't agree on. Like most people will agree that it's wrong. So then I tell them, so the only difference is that you ask 100 people randomly if they're for or against animals, all 100 out of 100 are going to tell you that they're against animal abuse, unless of course you ran into a psychopath, you know. But most people are going to be against animal abuse. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we share the same beliefs. So now I'll go and I'll do something like this. So Your values, not mine, your values are that you're against unnecessary animal abuse. But your actions are completely opposite of those values because you are paying for, creating a demand for animal abuse. So your words are here and your actions are here. Your words, your actions, they are not in alignment. They are complete opposites of each other. So then I'll say, so what does that make you? When you say one thing but do the complete opposite, what does that make you? They always answer, go ahead, say it louder. A hypocrite. So now they heard themselves call themselves a hypocrite. I didn't call them a hypocrite. I asked a question. They called themselves a hypocrite. That is so powerful because it's more powerful for you to hear yourself say it than for me to call you a hypocrite. Okay, because they arrived at that conclusion on their own based on how I asked them the questions and based on how I presented this idea. So when your values are here, and your actions are here, and they're opposite of each other, what does that make you? A hypocrite. Exactly. Do you want to live as a hypocrite for the rest of your life? Or do you want to make change today? Today, not tomorrow, not a month from now, not on January 1st, but today, right now. And when you speak like that, when you speak with boldness, they respect you, they appreciate you because they see that you're coming from a place of trying to help them. You're not there to judge them. You're not there to do anything but help this person come to the realization that you came to that allowed you to go vegan. Every single one of you. I know every single one of you has a story about how you went vegan. So what our jobs as activists is to help others get there. We're not there to judge people. We're not there to do any of that. We're there to help them. And if you can keep that in mind, you come from a place of love. If you approach somebody with love, I'm here to help you because I want you to come to that realization so that you also don't participate in animal cruelty. That's a beautiful thing. So if you can help others get there, that's beautiful. You're helping them and you're helping the animals. But if they can feel that, people are very good at perceiving where you're coming from. If they think that you're trying to trick them into, if you ask them questions that are like leading, that are leading questions, they're going to pick up on that right away. We're not here to trick anybody. So if there's a slaughterhouse footage on the screen, one thing that we don't say is, do you think this is bad? Because it's like, okay, yeah, obviously I do think it's bad. Like, okay, so now they get on the defensive. Oh, okay, what's coming next? We don't want to put them on the defensive. They're going to get on the defensive no matter what because their beliefs are being challenged. But we don't want to, encourage them that way. So, and I'm actually jumping around from slide to slide. I've done this so many times I kind of like, but basically, you all have heard of the Socratic method? Yeah. So basically we want to ask open-ended questions. We want the person we're outreaching to arrive at their own conclusions through thought process. Right? We're not feeding people information and they're like, yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes. They're not getting anything out of that. We want them to think. We want them to understand. So how do we do that? We ask open-ended questions. So instead of saying, do you think this is bad? That's a yes or no question. How they answer that doesn't really tell you a lot about who they are or what they think or how they feel. If I ask you, what do you think? If I ask you, do you think this is bad? You're going to say yes or no, right? You're probably going to say, yes, I think it's bad. I didn't learn anything about you as a person, who you are. So we try to build rapport with the people that we're talking with, and genuinely. Like, I really want to actually know about you and who you are, what you think, and what do you think about what you're seeing here? Like, I genuinely want to know. It's not just a question because it's a question that we ask. I actually do want to know what you think. What do you think about what you're seeing here? What do you think about what you're seeing here? You know, like you ask, if you're with a group of 3 people and you ask them and they stay silent because, they've never seen stuff like this up close. Their brain is processing. They're not answering you right away. Just move on to their spouse or their brother or whoever's next to them and say, well, what do you think about what you're seeing? Somebody's going to answer. Usually they do answer. They say, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yes.
I'd like to ask him, how does it make you feel?
How does it make you feel?
Paul talked about that bypassing the thought and just going right.
Yeah, yeah. And also thank you for bringing that up. So AV has, like I mentioned earlier, has evolved over time based on trial and error. So they started out with holding non-vegans accountable, and then they started, they kind of evolved and they did another one holding non-vegans accountable 2.0, then 2.5, then 3.0. And so I encourage everybody to watch that. They're free on YouTube, and you should watch every single iteration of that so that you can see the evolution of AV and why certain things they say that they didn't used to say and certain things they don't say that they did used to say. And that might be one thing. So it's like, you do want to get to their feel, like, how does this make you feel? You know, so thank you for bringing that up, because you want them to get to those feelings and understand themselves, like, how does it make them feel? So once they answer that, it's an open-ended question. They'll tell you how it makes them feel, and then you can get into the outreach conversation. So we'll go into the technical aspects of that, but I kind of wanted to give that kind of big picture about how I outreach and why I think it's effective. I think it's very important that we come from a place of love. We're trying to help people, and by helping people, we're helping the animals, because we don't know who we may influence. You know, if Earthling Ed was walking by me before he was vegan, and I had a conversation with him, and something I said impacted him, and then he goes vegan and becomes an animal rights activist and has tremendous influence, you know, it's a domino effect. It's like, I just talked to one person, and then he took it and it blew up. So you don't know who you're talking to. So every conversation could potentially be, you know, earth-changing. So always approach it that way, because you just don't know. Okay. So what is animal rights activism? Activism is speaking up for animals in the same way that you would want to be spoken for if you were in their position. So something to always remember is that let me put it this way. If you have difficulty in any situation, just think about, if you were the animal, how would you want somebody to speak on your behalf? And then it becomes easy. How would I want somebody to talk about my plight? You know? So if you get defensive, or if you get argumentative, or if you get, think about, would the animal think that I'm doing a good job right now, being a voice for them on their behalf? Or is there a better way that I can handle this situation? If you think about that, you'll naturally arrive at the best approach to a situation, right? Now, I was talking to some people outside earlier about this. Non-vegans are what I call masters of deflection. They don't even know how good they are at it. They're experts. It's like they've had their entire life, you know, practicing for this moment. They are masters of deflection, and they don't even know it. They don't know how good they are, right? So we have to remember that they are trying to deflect. Anybody want to guess why they deflect whenever? Go ahead, Jeff.
Because they're guilty.
Because they feel guilt.
They feel guilt.
Yes. Anybody else? Why do people deflect whenever they encounter a vegan?
I think the implications of being honest would be so massive on their life that they're like, this is just too big.
100%.
And they're like, probably at some level they know that there's truth here, but they're like, if I was honest right now, like, my whole life would be different, and like, I'm just not trying to do
They
that
can't
right
fathom the idea
Yeah.
of changing something they've been doing their entire lives. So it's much easier to keep the blinders on. Everybody else is doing it, so I don't feel guilt because everybody else is doing it. And that's the truth. Okay? People don't feel guilt. I mean, they do, but they don't.
Yeah.
They don't feel guilt because nobody is doing it. So, okay, I'm just gonna keep living like this. It's easier. I don't have to change anything, and I don't have to be that vegan. I don't have to be the outcast. I don't have to be somebody different. Because humans are creatures of what? Of social, they want to be liked. People want to be liked and they want to belong. So to basically say, you know what, I belong right now with this group of people, my family, my friends, my network, everybody likes me, I belong. Now, I'm gonna step over here and I'm gonna be in this silo by myself where I don't belong and now people don't like me. No. Let me just stay here. It's so much easier and I don't have to worry about anything. But at the end of the day, this is about justice. So I tell people, I don't care if people don't like you anymore. I don't care if people make fun of you. I don't care about anything because this is about justice. And if you were the animal, you would want justice. And so you have an obligation to live vegan. I don't even tell people you have a choice. You have an obligation to live vegan because you don't have a right to harm others, period. You just don't. And so another thing that I say to people in an outreach conversation is, do you, and I'll ask them like, you don't want to be harmed, correct? You don't want to be exploited. You don't want to be enslaved. You don't want to be tortured, right? You don't want to be tormented. You don't want to be killed. None of you want that, right? So if nobody has a right to do that to you, if nobody has a right to enslave you, if nobody has a right to exploit you, if nobody has a right to kill you, what gives you the right to do that to others? You don't have that right. You don't have that right. I don't care what excuse or argument or justification you come up with from the perspective of the victim. Put yourself, and I'll tell people this as I'm outreaching them, put yourself in the animal's position. Close your eyes, pretend and imagine yourself on the kill line in a slaughterhouse. You hear and see and smell everything that's going on. You're scared for your life. From the perspective of the animal, there's no justification. If you were the victim, you would not be saying, well, that guy over there has a point. You know, plants do have feelings, so go ahead and slit my throat. Or that guy over there has a point. It's been going on for thousands of years, so go ahead and slit my throat. If you were the victim, you wouldn't accept any of these justifications that you're giving me, because they're going to give you objections, right? They're going to give you objections all day and all night. So, go ahead.
Oh no, do you talk about injustices in history and say how it's?
Yes. So there are parallels and analogies that I'll use.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll say something like, you know, what side of history do you want to be on? Okay? Because what you're trying to justify now is what was trying to be justified 150 years ago. People didn't think it was wrong to own people, and to own slaves, and to exploit people because of their race. They didn't think it was wrong. We think it's wrong now, but back then, they didn't think it was wrong because everybody else was doing it. And a small group of people had to stand up and fight for those who didn't have a voice. And that's what's happening here. And so now we look back and say, how in the hell did we allow that to happen for 400 years? How's that possible? We judge them now. Future generations are going to judge you now and say, how could you be so callous? How can you pay for innocent sentient beings to be harmed, slaughtered, and all that stuff? So I tell them, what side of history do you want to be on? You have the choice today, right now, to pick a side. Do you want to be on the side where there's justice, or do you want to be on the side where there's excuses? That's all. Those are the only two differences: excuses versus justice.
I have a question. I find that I saw some videos and a lot of people stray away from the slavery thing. Instead, they'll go to women's suffrage or racism. Do you have anything to say about the slavery? Because I feel like when someone brings up slavery, it's coming from a white person that's privileged, and then it's there's more room for backlash.
Yeah, I mean, you take the situation and you can choose to or not, depending on how you feel about it. I I think it's a good analogy to bring up when I'm talking about what side of history do you want to be on. Because I'm not really talking about slavery, I'm talking about the idea that something people used to think was okay, we don't think is okay now. And I'm trying to get them to understand that people in the future are going to think that it wasn't okay what we're doing today. So now you have a choice to pick a side, which side you want to be on. But it can get dicey because sometimes when we make comparisons, people will be like, oh, now you're comparing black people to animals. No, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm comparing is the idea that people used to think something was wrong then, that was not wrong then, and people think that is wrong now. That's the comparison. Obviously, I'm not comparing black people to animals. And they know that. But why do they say that? Because they're deflecting. They want to put you on the defensive. Always remember that. They want you to be on the defensive so that you don't hold them accountable. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one quick comment to make.
Yeah.
We have a fellow activist, his name's Bryce, he's from Connecticut, he comes down, he does like AV in like New York City. There's something he said that I remember, like along those lines. He once said that there's a difference between comparing and equating. And that's always really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because it's like when we talk about animals versus like slavery and other things in the past, I feel like, I mean, comparing is making an analogy, but we're not trying to equate one to another. We're not trying to say one thing is worse than another.
Correct.
That's always really stuck with me. There's a difference between comparison and equation.
Correct. And we can get into the semantics of language with these people. But at the end of the day, remember this simple fact. They are merely just deflecting and putting you on the defensive. That's all they're doing. Because they know that you're not actually comparing what they're claiming you're comparing. They know that. So what they're trying to do is put you on the defensive so that you can defend yourself, get argumentative, and that's what they want. Because the more that you have to defend yourself, the less time you're doing what? The more time you're defending yourself, the less time you're doing what? Holding them accountable. They are masters of deflection. They are trying to do everything in their power, consciously or subconsciously, they're trying to do everything in their power to stop you from holding them accountable. That is their mission. And if you let them, they win. If you let them, they win. So, if you're aware of that, every conversation that you have, always remember, okay, they're going to try to deflect. I know they are. Just be aware that, oh, there it is, I see the deflection now. Okay? If you're aware of it, you don't get sidetracked. You bring it back to your message. Don't let them control the conversation. You're the one controlling the conversation. If they'll say, oh, well, what's your stance on abortion? Don't answer that, Jack. Don't answer that. Even if you think your answer is in alignment with this, even if you think your answer is going to help your argument, don't answer it.
I used to get the conversation away from that.
Very easy. It's not relevant to what we're discussing here. It's not relevant. And I actually will tell people now, I didn't used to do this in the past, but I'll tell them now respectfully, I'm like, listen, I've done this 1,000 times, I know what you're doing. You're actually trying to deflect the conversation so that we don't talk about why I'm here to talk about what I'm here to talk about. You're actually, cleverly trying to divert the conversation. Oh, no, I just want to know, oh, you're not answering, I already know your answer. I already know your answer because you're not answering. I'm like, listen, we're here to talk about animal rights today, right now. Okay? And I actually said this to somebody once. Because they were like at me about abortion because I wouldn't answer. They're like, I know your stance on abortion. No, you don't. I never told them. They don't know. Now, let me ask you all this. Are there pro-life vegans? Yeah. Are there pro-choice vegans?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so? Right? Okay, so that's irrelevant. Okay? And I'll tell them, there are pro-life vegans and there are pro-choice vegans. I haven't told you my position on that, so you don't know. You can claim to pretend to know, but you don't know, and I'm not going to answer it because I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to let you steer the conversation away from why I'm here today and to speak on behalf of the animals. That's why I'm here. And I said to somebody once, if you would like to set up a cube of abortion next to us, feel free to do so, and when I walk by your cube, you can outreach me on your position on that subject. So go ahead, set up a cube of abortion over here, And when I walk by it, we'll have that discussion. But today, you walk by a cube of truth, and we're gonna talk about animal rights today. Go ahead.
A very like similar one that I think a trap vegans tend to fall into in outreach is when the person you're outreaching tries to trap you as a hypocrite.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they'll say like, for example, like, oh, you're wearing Nike sneakers, like, do you know that they were made in a sweatshop and something like that? And they're actually, it could be perfectly true
Yeah.
that like you are actually being hypocritical by supporting other injustices. But the point is that in those situations, I think you feel compelled to try to defend your behavior, and you're like in some way try to like say either that, no, I'm not a hypocrite, or like you try to feed into it, whereas like actually whether or not you're a hypocrite is not actually relevant. It's like, because the way you can think about it is like, well, if for somehow I was like wearing different shoes, or if I somehow wasn't a hypocrite in the way you were accusing me, would that make you a vegan? And the answer is no, right? So it's like in those cases, whether or not their accusation is true, whether you're a hypocrite, it's best to like keep it relevant and be like, my behavior on other topics is not relevant to like how these animals are being treated.
100%, 100%. In fact, let me give you an extreme example that obviously wouldn't happen. But let's say I'm eating an animal flesh steak, that's what they call it. And I'm speaking on behalf of the animals, and I'm trying to get you to not eat animals while I'm eating an animal. The fact that I'm eating an animal doesn't justify you eating the animal. The fact that I'm causing someone harm doesn't give you the right to cause someone harm. Just because I'm a hypocrite doesn't mean that you are allowed to do that. You can call me a hypocrite and you'd be right, but it still doesn't justify what you're doing. So you're trying to put this on me is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Now, you can answer certain questions, like the abortion question, don't answer that. Okay, but when people accuse you, oh, you're wearing leather shoes. Well, first of all, they're vegan leather, and you're welcome to look at Doshi.com. That's where I buy all my belts, my wallet, and my shoes from Doshi.com. Vegan leather, look it up. They'll try to make you out to be a hypocrite. Or they'll talk about the sweatshops. Again, what is that called? Deflection. That's all it is deflection. And I'll say, listen, I'm always trying to do better. If I don't know something and you educate me, and you tell me, by the way, those shoes that you're wearing, are, I know 100% specifically, here's the data and the research, it's specifically made by slave labor. And I'll be like, oh shit, I didn't know that. And this is the data? Oh, I'm gonna look it up. Thank you for sharing that with me, because I'm trying to do better. But I'll tell them, but that's not the reality here. You're just trying to change the conversation. You're trying to deflect. You're trying to call me out as a hypocrite to avoid accountability. This is a game, guys. This is a game. And if you play the game better, you will help them. It's not because we want to be right. Okay, we are right. We know that. We don't have to prove that we're right to anybody. We know that we're right. Right? So we're not here to be right. And we're not here to judge, and we're not here for any of that. We're here to help others make the connection. Because if somebody would have talked to me the way that I talk to them, long before I went vegan, I would have been vegan sooner. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that. So I'm actually here to help you. And I don't say that because it sounds like condescending in a way, like, oh, like, I know so much more than you do, and I'm here to help you, and I used to be you, and all that kind of stuff. It sounds kind of like I don't actually use those words, but I'm coming from a place that I am here to help you. Because I wish somebody would have done what I'm doing to you to me, because I would have gone vegan sooner. So, all right, let's move on.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you find that telling that person that they are deflecting actually works? And I feel like someone will be intimidated when you say that. You're deflecting.
If they know you're coming from a good place, they won't. If you're telling them as a way of, aha, I got you, I know you're deflecting, you see, ha ha ha. Like, if you're coming from a place of like, yeah, I know what's going on here, and if you're coming from a place of ego, they'll sense that, and then they'll shut down. But if they feel that you're coming from a place of love and you're trying to help them, and I tell them, look, you're deflecting, and it's natural human behavior. I understand. This is what people do. I'm just pointing out that you're deflecting because you don't want to be held accountable. I'm just pointing that out to you. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying that so that you can recognize that I can see that you're trying to deflect. And again, I go back to, if you were the animal, you would want me, as an animal rights activist, you would want me to speak in a way that can penetrate you. And if you're trying to deflect, I'm not doing the animals any service. I'm here as a service to the animals. If you were the victim, I would be here as a service to you, and you would want me to stay on topic. If you were the victim, you would not want me to start talking about other things. Because if you were the victim, you'd be looking at him like, why is he talking about abortion? I'm over here dying. Can you please get back to the topic at hand? If you were the victim, you would want me to call you out on your deflection. That's what I'm here to do. I am a voice for the animals. I am doing this from their perspective, and I'm doing everything that I think I know to help them. And that's why I'm doing this. So if they can feel and sense that you're coming from a place of like, you're not doing it from ego, but from love, they'll respect you and they'll listen. Yes.
Yeah. So I substitute teach. Kids are really good at deflecting, from doing their work.
Yeah.
And if you honestly with kids, but also in general, definitely thanks to outreach, if you rather than really call them out, just kind of say, let's stay focused.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. Let's stay focused and then get right back to the next question you want to answer. That, almost giving less attention to their deflections is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we're all different, right? We all have different personalities. My personality kind of, helps me do it that way. If you have a different way, but it's the same purpose, go for it. You know what I mean? I like to be as transparent with you, and I'm not saying that your approach wouldn't be transparent. It's a different strategy. But I just like to tell people the truth and be honest with them. They deserve my honesty. That's the best thing you can give somebody is your honesty. Listen, I want to be completely honest with you. This is what's happening right now. And I want to use the word, I want to say to them, I'm calling you out. I wouldn't say those words, but I would be like, this is what's happening. I just want to be honest with you so that you can see from my perspective what I see and what's happening here. And I'm just please understand, I'm just here to be a voice for the animals, and I want you to understand that your actions and your values are not in alignment. We actually share the same beliefs, and any justification that you give me or any deflection that you give me is just trying to stray from accountability. And my job here is to hold people accountable respectfully. I'm not here for any other reason. Just because, and I tell them, because I wish somebody would have done that with me, and I would have been vegan sooner. Go ahead.
I have a question. So there's something that I've given a little bit of thought about, this whole thing about humanity. And I can give all kind of argument. There's nothing called humane, no animal volunteers to die, all of that. But there are people who say, oh, but I have articles which will show you that this certain way of killing which doesn't hurt the animal.
Right.
And then I have, of course, all the argument, do you always eat that meat?
Right.
Even if there was something like this, the animal didn't voluntarily die.
Right.
That's the kind of thing. But there are people who will continue arguing about how they feel like it's okay to kill as long as there's no pain. And so how would you take it to a better place? I always end up feeling a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, there's definitely objections that are challenging, and that's a challenging objection. The way that I would handle that is basically saying that, and again, what did I say when I started this workshop is that I usually always respond the same way, no matter what the objection is. Like, if you were the victim in this situation, you wouldn't accept that as a justification. You wouldn't. If you were the victim in this case, you would not accept being killed humanely because you want to live. And another thing, so I know you're recording this, right? This will be available later. So there's a few key things that I always say. So I've said a couple of them already. Another thing that I say is, their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. Their lives might not matter to you, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. And so if you were in their position, you would not accept being killed humanely because you want to live. It's that simple, I think. Like, that kind of shuts them down. Like, what can they respond to that? Oh, but I think it's okay. Well, how convenient for you to think it's okay when you're not the victim. I'll tell them that. How convenient for you. You know? You would not think that if you were in their position. Trust me. Yes.
Yeah, it's sort of a response there, and like what you said, I think a lot of times when you start debating with people, it starts to get into like, well, I believe this, and then you believe this, and then we're just like, we're sort of just on different sides of this, and there's just differences of opinion. Whereas the way to like resolve it is to say, okay, there's an objective way to analyze this, and it's what is the animal's opinion, right? If you just look at it from the animal's perspective, there's no like different. You can't deny that this is how the animal would feel.
Well, I don't care about the animal's opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You're kind of just a psycho.
How would you respond to that?
I don't care about the animal's opinion. I mean, they're basically throwing the apathy card at you, which is like borderline psychopathy. But, I mean, I would try to get them to like understand that they don't hold this opinion consistently. Like, I would say like, okay, you know, how do you feel about people who participate in dogfighting? You know, like if you're against that, like is it because you believe that the animal's opinion matters? And then if I would assume that they wouldn't double down and say dogfighting is okay. I mean, if they do, then like you're really running out of options. If they're just like going down there.
The reason I play devil's advocate there is that if they say to me, I don't care about the animal's opinion, there's two possible scenarios here with this person. They're either a psychopath, the odds of that are low,
Yeah.
or they're full of shit.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, my friend, I'm sorry, I don't believe you. I think you're full of it. I don't think you actually don't care. I think you're saying that because it helps your argument. But I actually believe that you're a good-hearted, compassionate person and that you don't want others to suffer unnecessarily. But I understand that you have to try to find a way to justify this because you have been doing it your whole life and you don't consider yourself a bad person. And I don't think you're a bad person. And because you don't think you're a bad person, you kind of say to yourself, there must be a reason why it's okay. Because I'm not a bad person and I'm doing this, so therefore there must be a reason why it's okay. And at the end of the day, nobody considers themselves a bad person. So in their minds, when they encounter an activist, being an activist, animal rights activist, they are literally, their brain is like, you know, going through the tunnels and the mazes, trying to find that one reason why it's okay what they do. And they can't find it because it doesn't exist. We know that. We know it doesn't. We know there's no justification. Right? We know there's, I mean, we say it in our chants. There's no excuse for animal abuse. We know that it doesn't exist, but they don't know that. And so their brain is searching for that. And they'll hit, oh, but lions eat meat. They think they got us. Oh my God, lions eat meat. Everybody, did you all know lions eat meat? Let's stop being vegan. Okay? They think they got us. Okay? Oh, but plants have feelings. Oh, but intelligent people with PhDs will give you the most ridiculous arguments. Go ahead.
Not to be pedantic, but I do believe that some people do believe that they're bad people. Like, for example, to be quite frank, like, I don't feel like a good person. Like, for example, I will indulge in, say, luxuries I don't have to when I know I could, for example, donate to starving people. Or, like, I know that I do buy from sweatshops when I don't have to, and I'm conscious of these things, and I do know that I do them, and I feel bad about it, right? And I will try to change, and it's like sort of like I'm in a non-vegan position. But I don't think it's necessarily accurate that people always don't think they're bad people. Like, some people do think that they're bad people, I think.
Well, okay, so let me respond to that. You said something key. I will try to change.
Yeah,
That
I should be
shows-
changing faster,
Okay,
but
well,
I'm not, right?
okay, fine. But let me respond to that real quick, and I'll get to you in a second. If you encounter somebody that genuinely believes they're a bad person or are a bad person or they are a psychopath, you're wasting your time. Just move on. Just say, thank you for the conversation. Here's some more information if you like. Have a nice day. Boom. But this is key. That's not the first route we go to. At least for me, and again, not everything I say is, you know, like you can disagree with me, you know, but what I'm saying for me is that I give people the benefit of the doubt. When they tell me that they don't care, I give them the benefit of the doubt and I tell them I don't believe you. Because I think it's just a deflection tactic. If they actually don't care, then I'm wasting my time, but I'll figure it out within the next couple of minutes and I'll be like, thank you for stopping by, have a nice day. Because if they didn't care, why did they stop? Just to troll us? Okay, if they did, I'll pick up on that and I'll say, have a nice day, thank you, and move on to the next conversation. Time is valuable. We are not here to have 30-minute conversations or 30-minute arguments. Like you said, we're not here to debate, and I know like some of these slides say that. Our job is not to debate, because when we debate, we're taking a stand, we're taking one position, and the person that we're debating is taking the opposite position. But what did I say at the beginning? We don't have opposite positions. We share the same beliefs. So there's no point in debating. We're not debating. I'm here to remind you that you actually believe hurting others unnecessarily is wrong. If they say, I don't believe that, okay, thank you, have a nice day. But 99 out of 100 times I've done this, I've experimented this, they will agree. Yes, causing unnecessary harm is wrong. Okay, these are your values. Just live in alignment with that, that's all. If you don't, what are you? Boom. Do you want to continue to be that for the rest of your life? And then I say, do you know what the biggest benefit of going vegan is? Then they'll be like, health? No, because I can eat Oreo cookies and potato chips all day, every day. The biggest benefit of going vegan is that you get to go to sleep at night knowing that you are no longer living as a hypocrite. You get to go to sleep at night knowing that you are no longer responsible for the suffering of others. Yes?
In my experience with talking to people, I have the urge to do it very strongly, very often, to say to somebody, you don't actually believe what you just told me. It always, when I actually do it, if I tell them, like, you know, you don't really mean that, or, you know, I basically tell them, I think this is what you believe, like, people don't respond well to that. I mean, that can be, like, a good way to end a conversation if we're moving waste of time.
So did I say to him, you don't believe that? Or did I say, I don't believe you?
Either way, in my experience, if you say, I don't believe you to someone, that usually, like, you know, I would ask the person, like, why do you say that? Like, ask them to, like, expand on it, right? And if they really do, like, you know, like, if I don't see any compassion in this person, yeah, you gotta end the conversation.
So that word is key. And thank you for bringing that up because it comes up in the slides. Compassion. Veganism has zero to do with compassion. Zero. Yes. It has to do with justice. Justice. You don't have to have compassion for anybody. You don't have a right to harm others. That has nothing to do with compassion. I mean, we're lucky that most people have compassion, but it has nothing to do with compassion. It has to do with justice for animals, justice for them. Because I like to tell people, I don't care for kids, to be honest. And this is not true, but this is something that I say to make a point, right? Or I could tell them, you could be somebody that doesn't care for kids. You don't like kids, they're annoying, you just don't like them. You have zero compassion for them. If they fall and get hurt, you don't care, you actually like it, okay? But just because you have no compassion for them doesn't give you a right to go and harm them. It doesn't. Right? So I know we use compassion a lot in the movement, and I think there's something to that. I mean, I'm not trying to say, you know, it is true that we have compassion, and that's a good thing. It should help us get there faster. But it's not really about compassion, it's about justice. This is an injustice what's happening. This is a social justice movement, is what it is. We're fighting against oppression for others who can't fight for themselves. So when I tell people things, it may shut them down, and if I notice something, I may, you know, it's very strategic. Like I may, you know, apologize. I may say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to come out that way. What I'm trying to say is this. You know, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. I think you're probably good person, you probably understand when there's an injustice happening, and you probably understand that you wouldn't want this injustice to happen to you. So, you know, I'll say something like that. So, what I'm saying isn't like, you know, that's the way it needs to be. I'm just saying, like, think about it in that way, I think, and it'll help you handle situations better. And, you know, it is fluid. It is fluid. You know, conversations are fluid. Like, I'm reading the person, I'm understanding them, I'm trying to. I may get them wrong. And I'll tell a quick little story, which I always tell, is like this guy came once to our queue by himself. He just starts yelling, well, what about plants? What about plants? You know, plants, the plants thing, right? What about plants? Plants are living, plants, you're killing plants, you're killing plants. Well, we know what the response to that is, right? There's two responses. You kill more plants as a non-vegan. Right? We all know what the two responses are. You kill more plants as a non-vegan, and the other response is plants are not sentient. They don't have a central nervous system, nor do they have a brain. They can react to stimuli or whatever. They don't have the ability to evade danger or anything like that. But I did not answer him that way with those correct responses because he was so unhinged. And again, the way that I handle situations is I try to be as honest with people as possible, not coming from a place of ego, but coming from a place of, okay, what's going on here? How do I handle this situation? In that moment, I don't always do this, but in that moment, it felt right for me to say to him, excuse me, sir, is there something I can help you with? Like, what's going on here? Why are you yelling over here? Like, you know, what's going on here? He's like, well, what about plans? And I said to him, look, there's two ways I can answer you. I mean, there's the correct response that I usually give to people, and there's this response that I've never given to anybody before, but it's the one I'm going to give you right now. You're full of shit and you know it. Get out of here with this plant have feelings crap. You're full of shit and you know it. Come on. Now, does that sound like I'm coming from a place of like trying to make him feel better or anything, or does it sound like a place from honesty? Like, I think you're full of shit and you know it. If you want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation. But don't come at us with plants have feelings. Now I'm going to answer you the correct way, or the correct response to this objection that you have. You actually kill more plants as a non-vegan because 80 billion farmed animals consume a lot of plants, a lot more plants that would be required to feed vegans. Now will you go vegan now that you know this? No. So that wasn't really an argument that you had. That wasn't really a concern that you had, because if it was, you'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm vegan now. So you're full of shit and you know it. So don't come at us with this. You know what happened in that conversation? He toned down. We had a conversation. I outreached him my normal outreach. At the end, he shook my hand. I gave him a card, and he said, watch Gary Yarlstein's video, watch Dominion. Thank you for your time. And he thanked me. He shook my hand, and he walked away. He did a complete 180. Why do I tell this story? Because sometimes in the moment, something that you wouldn't normally do just seems like it's the right thing to do. And it felt like the right thing to do because all I was doing is being honest. That's all I was doing, is being honest with him. Yeah, what did you ask him? What did I ask him?
Yeah.
As far as?
So you said you started with a different question than you.
Yeah, so the normal response would be, you know, plants aren't sentient, they don't have a brain or central nervous system, and you kill more plants as a non-vegan.
Yeah.
That would be the normal way to respond, that I normally would respond. But because he was so unhinged, the way, what I actually said to him wasn't that, it was, you're full of shit and you know it, come on. So there was two ways for me to respond to him. The way that I normally respond, and the way that I respond this time. So I actually matched him in intensity, and I was being honest. I said, you're full of shit and you know it. Come on, seriously? Are you gonna come at me with plants have feelings? Come on, let's be real here. You know, if you want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation. If you have some questions, if you don't understand certain things, if you have health concerns about being vegan, you know, we can talk about those things. But when you come unhinged over here yelling and screaming, what about plants? And then I tell you, which I'm going to tell you now, that you kill more plants as a non-vegan because 80 billion land animals have to eat and they eat plants. So now that you know this, are you gonna go vegan now? No.
Okay.
One thing that we used to say a lot is we're planting seeds. You know, we used to count how many people we talked to and we thought we had a good conversation. Amy doesn't do that anymore because how do we measure if we are successful in our outreach conversations? We used to try to use a system of metrics, like let's count how many people we talk to, out of those people, how many people we think we had an impact on, and blah, blah, blah. We don't really know. We don't know. The people that we might have had the biggest argument with might be the most closest to being vegan because they are suffering from cognitive dissonance. And the more they fight you, the more they know that something ain't right. So we stopped counting, and the way that I like to think of it is, how do I know if I'm being successful as an outreacher? Is after the outreach conversation, I'll ask myself, did I do what the animals would have wanted me to do? Did I hold this person accountable? Was I respectful? Did I get the message across? If the answer is yes, success. If the answer is no, not necessarily not a success, but was it because of me or was it because of them? You know, maybe they're just so close to it that they're just not open to listening. Like I was telling you earlier, I had dinner with Earthling Ed when he came to Miami, like a social dinner. He's friends with my brother, and they invited me, and there was like 5 of us, and we went to go eat. We didn't talk a whole lot of animal rights stuff, but it was more of a social gathering. Ed's a really funny guy, by the way. But he told me something that stuck with me and that I like to share with activists, is that nobody, not a single person in his family has gone vegan. Wow. Not one person. And he's one of the most influential, powerful, maybe powerful is not the right word, but the most influential, well-spoken, vegan animal rights activists that we have, right? And he has not been able to convince his own family, not a single person in his family to go vegan. Does that say something about Ed, or does that say something about them? It says something about them. So when we're having an outreach conversation, if I can't get through to somebody, I did my best. I did what the animals would have wanted me to do. I couldn't get through. Thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate your time. Here's some information. Have a good day. Next. My time is valuable. I'm not going to sit there for an hour trying to convince somebody that doesn't want to be convinced. Because it's not even about convincing. Because again, it's not a debate. It's just, you either understand what I'm telling you, your values are here, your actions are here, they're opposite of each other. What do you want to do about that? What do you want to do about that? You want to keep living like that? Really? Is that how you want to live? I mean, that's up to you. Is that how you want to live? It's your choice, my friend. It's that simple. It's that simple. And if you can get that across and it doesn't penetrate, it's not you. Yes?
This isn't specifically super relevant, but I'm curious, does Ed maintain non-vegan relationships?
I don't know his relationships.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I have no idea. I know his girlfriend's vegan.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I have no idea. But, I think that's a very interesting story because we were talking earlier, you're having difficulty with your family. I'm sure everybody's here having difficulty with their family. Like I said earlier, like my whole family's vegan. I think I just lucked out. I don't know what happened, but family is a whole nother dynamic. It's not like a street outreach because what I was saying earlier to you outside is that with family, there's another layer that doesn't exist with a stranger, right? With a stranger, they don't know what buttons to push. You don't know what buttons to push. They're never going to see you again, so they're more open to listening because they're like, well, whatever, okay, what do you got to say? Okay, I'll listen, all right, fine. But with family, they know they're going to see you tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. If they one day come to the realization and admit and go vegan, they have to suppress their ego because their ego is not allowing them. Because they have to say to themselves, you were right all along. And I was wrong all along. And I can't say that because I have to look you in the eye every day and I don't want you to have something over me. That's ego. When my brother went vegan, he was the first one in the family to go vegan. He talked to me about veganism. I said to him, I respect what you're doing, but I can never go vegan. That's what I said to him. Now, I went down the rabbit hole. I started doing a little bit of research. I was like, what? started to learn all this stuff that
Oh, he flipped you?
he flipped me.
Yo.
He's 10 years younger than me, and he flipped me. Now, what I was saying earlier is people always ask me how many people have I turned vegan. What is my answer to that? 0. I haven't turned anybody vegan. I don't have that kind of power. I wish I did, but I don't. The only person that can turn you vegan is you. I can't turn you vegan, even if I hold a gun to your head and say, go vegan or I'll kill you. If you decide to go vegan because I have a gun to your head, you're still not vegan. Because veganism isn't about anything other than understanding something. Once you get it, you get it. Okay, so, yeah, so let me keep moving on. How are we doing time here?
I just want to say, I remember when afterwards we were talking about an ice cream place, you were telling me about your business relationship in a restaurant, and they were all eating steak.
Oh, yeah.
And you said it so well, like you were telling everybody how you spoke to like these people in front of you, your associates.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was an amazing way to talk to someone that like I felt like it was kind of the same.
About what? About what?
About what he says, how do you maintain non-vegan relationships?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Do
okay.
you maintain non-vegan relationships?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Because we live in a world full of non-vegans. I mean, I can go into a silo and not interact with anybody. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, right? It's an unfortunate. It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice.
It's definitely a choice. Now, 99% of the people that I interact with are all vegan.
Yeah.
Like, I just turned 50, and my 50th birthday, I had a big party in my house. Guess who came? Guess who were invited? Not who came. Guess who was invited? The animal rights community in South Florida. Those were the only people invited. Nobody else was invited. And my family, of course, they're vegan. So everybody that came was vegan. So all of my interactions, personal relationships, are mostly with vegans. I do have some vegans I do have some friends that are non-vegan. I mean, I don't interact with them on the daily. I outreach them, they want to change, and it is what it is. Now, it is a personal choice. You can basically say, you're shut off, I don't want to talk to you, and that's fine. I think that's okay. If you take the other approach and say, well, I understand that we live in this world, and it's either I shut myself off from everybody, or I continue to interact and continue to maybe help them get there. I think both approaches are okay. I don't have any, I don't lean one way or the other. I think whatever you decide is your personal choice. I think that's okay. Yes.
I have a story about this. So there was this one person who on my Facebook, he would come in and always oppose my posts. I don't know, what 10 years ago.
Right.
Right? Always say, oh, but you don't think about kids in India, all that. From that to something like, and something started to change in him. And his comments became milder. Milder to a point where, oh, I feel so sad about this. I never thought of this.
Yeah.
Now he's going vegan.
Oh, that's
My heart breaks every time. And he's sharing my post saying, please go vegan.
So that's a very good example of
being a
one
society.
reason why we shouldn't shut people off, because everybody has the potential to change. So I'll give one example, and then I'll talk quickly about my business experience. But I dated this girl. We lived in different cities, so we were trying to make it work. But we realized that I wasn't going to move there, and she wasn't going to move here, and we ended up being friends, and we're still great friends today. But when I started dating this girl, we met in Las Vegas, and we spent a week together. And I said to her, "Look, I'm vegan, so if you don't mind, we're going to eat at vegan restaurants." And she's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great. I can do vegan for a week." Thinking that veganism is a diet. But I because I was dating her, I had to strategize differently than I would normally, right? So I don't know if everybody knows, but I play poker for a living, so I'm always strategizing. I'm always thinking of the best. How can I be most effective to reach the outcome that I want? So it's different with different people. So this is a personal relationship that I am developing with somebody, so I have to be careful. I still wanted to speak for the animals the way they would want to be spoken for, but I also didn't want to ruin something that could potentially be there. So some people say, I would never date a non-vegan. Well, I'm an example of somebody that dated a non-vegan, and guess what happened? Once we decided that, you know, it's best that we're just gonna be friends because we're not gonna change our entire lives. You know, I live in Miami, my family, my friends are there, she lives in somewhere else, her family, her friends are there. Once we decided we're just gonna stay as friends, that's where it stopped. We stayed talking, whatever. One day she calls me and she's like, and one day meaning maybe like 2 months after this, she calls me, she's like, hey, by the way, I'm going vegan. I'm like, that's awesome, yeah, great. Now, I don't like to congratulate people for going vegan because why congratulate somebody for doing the right thing? You know, like I say, okay, you know, you made the connection, congratulations, kind of deal, right? So she went vegan. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And a month or two later, she calls me. She's like, hey, there's this like ACL or ALC or something that's happening in San Francisco, like it's an animal liberation conference or something. And I'm like, oh, I've been wanting to go to that for years. Are you interested? She's like, yeah, I would love to go. So she's interested all of a sudden in animal rights. So she went from not being vegan to being vegan to contacting me about an animal rights conference that was coming up. And since I actually did want to always go to that and I never had that opportunity, so I'm like, hey, you want to go? Let's go. Let's plan to go. So we planned to go and we went. Now, she's an AV, she's with DXC, she organizes, she does, so like, you know what I mean? If I would have shut myself off, if I would never have given her the opportunity because she was a non-vegan, I'm not even going to date you or talk to you because you're not vegan. You know? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess we're getting slightly off topic from like strictly animal rights and outreach and more into like vegan, non-vegan dynamics, but I definitely agree. I think there's like, when you maintain a non-vegan relationship, there's like two opposing forces, and one, like you're saying, is the opportunity that you normalize veganism and make them aware, and then like maybe the longer you do that, the more the probability that they make the connection goes up, and that's a positive thing. And then on the other end, you are to some degree always implicitly condoning their behavior. You're saying like, it's not, you're saying what you're doing is not so bad that I won't constantly speak up, or I'll stick around, right? Like in the same way if we took something different and you were like blatantly racist all the time, or like I knew that you like beat your dog in your house or something.
The only
right?
difference, if I may interrupt you, is that being racist or beating your wife, everybody knows is wrong. Most of society agrees with that. Veganism is a special case because everybody's been socially conditioned.
No, I understand.
And so it's like, I understand what you're saying. I disagree with you, and that's okay. I disagree with your statement that I'm condoning it by normalizing or by hanging out with them.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I believe that it's a different dynamic, animal rights and veganism, because the whole 99% of the population of the world is not vegan. So it's so normalized by society that we either have to completely, you know, move to another planet, all vegans, that would be great, right? Or continue to live in this planet and continue to interact with non-vegans in some capacity. That doesn't mean I'm condoning what they're doing, and I'm constantly speaking up. But I know you're shaking your head, but we can agree to disagree.
I don't know.
I disagree, but go ahead.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we're kind of getting a little off topic. I
Yeah.
do want to like finish the presentation, but go ahead.
Alright,
Because
I'll be kind of quick about it.
Yeah.
I think that like it's tough with a lot of like relationships, friends or dating, right? But something about that story is that she really did it on her own, right? She did it like and called you later. So I think that like I don't know. I think there's something kind of complicated about like if every time you see somebody they get that kind of like anxiety that you're going to talk about veganism, then that can be an obstacle. But also just like to comment on the whole topic. I do like I have struggled with like non-vegan friendships.
Yeah.
The thing is, I just like I connect so much better with other vegans, right? And it's like
I understand.
and that was like such a big thing for me. But like you know, I would totally compare it to like you know people who are like sexist and racist, you know, and that like as much as we disagree with them, right? As much as we think that they're awful, you know, everyone is a human being, right? And like I think that we should understand that like under certain circumstances, if you happens to be raised in a certain way, not only might you not be vegan, but you might be like what society considers to be a big impact.
Yeah, there's much work to do. I agree at a certain level with what you're saying, but at the same time, we're in an unfortunate situation, so we have to make a choice. And like I said earlier, if you make this choice, I totally support it. And if you make this choice, I also totally support it.
For me, it's like, I'll do both, right? So with some relationships, I'll basically be like I will not condone your behavior, and there's no circumstances under which we can continue a relationship while you support this. And in other circumstances, I take your approach where I say, okay, I'll maintain this friendship and hope that I make a positive impact. Like, it's not blanket, like I always do one thing or the other. What I'm saying is that there are these nuanced opposing forces, and then the outcome
You
is
get
sort
to
of
choose who's in your circle at the end of the day.
you know.
And that's awesome, you know? Like, if I don't like Benjamin and he's vegan, I can choose not to be in his circle.
But on that note, I'm grateful to have all of y'all in my circle, or be in the circle for activists together, and we're all here to be better, like you said, for the animals. So I'm gonna head back to the city, but love y'all, appreciate y'all, and so hopefully we can things out. Thanks.
As always. So, I know that it's, we'll probably get a little restless, so I want to get into a little bit of role playing. But I am going to go through the slides kind of quickly. I've probably touched on all of them already, but I'm going to go through them in case something pops into my head. So on this slide about planting seeds, I don't like the idea of planting seeds because that basically implies that we said something and now they're going to think about it. Now that might happen, but that is not the goal. Our goal is to hold somebody accountable and to literally, like I said earlier, do you want to continue to live as a hypocrite the rest of your life? Or do you want to live today, right now, not tomorrow, not a week from now, not a month from now, not on January 1st? We are basically saying, I'm holding you accountable, you need to hold yourself accountable, and you have an obligation to live vegan, starting right now. And then I'll say to them, again, another thing that I usually always say in all conversations is, listen, you were born into a society where it's perfectly normalized, okay, so I don't fault you. But now that you know, you didn't know before this conversation, so I will grant you that. Just like I didn't know at some point in my life. But now that you know, you have a choice. As soon as you leave this conversation, you will either continue to cause harm to others when you don't have to, which goes against your values. You told me you were against it. Or you can start living in alignment with your values and go vegan this moment. Now, you may not know how to live vegan, and that's okay. You might make some mistakes. You might have to do a little bit of research. You may have to figure out where to go eat. You may have to do this. You may have to figure out how to talk to family when you say no thank you. You may have to figure out all these things out, and that's okay. But you have an obligation, you have a moral obligation to start living vegan right now. The longer you delay this, the more you're responsible for what's happening on these screens. And if you know, as soon as you go vegan, this is going to continue to happen, but no longer because of you. You know, if you go vegan right now, I'll be here next week. Because you going vegan isn't going to stop this from happening, but it's going to stop it from happening because of you. And that's the best thing, the best benefit to you going vegan is that you get to live in alignment with your values that you weren't aware you weren't living in alignment with your values. So we're not planting seeds, we're holding people accountable. We talked about veganism is not love or compassion. We talked about honesty. The best thing you can give somebody is honesty. And if you come from a place of honesty, they will feel that, okay? Always speak boldly. Now, okay, don't talk about health and environment. We did talk about this already. It doesn't mean don't respond to questions, genuine, legitimate concerns or questions about health and environment. It just means don't go down that rabbit hole. It could be deflection. You know? So if you're able to decipher between, is this a genuine concern or are they deflecting? Try to figure that out. Answer the question and then go back to you in charge of the conversation. Morality is subjective. We've heard that one, right? Always go back to if you were the animal, if you were the victim here, would you accept that as a justification? Oh, it's okay to kill animals because my moral compass is different than yours. Just go back to if you were the animal. That's what I always go to. So the second point here, what injustice to compare to? Somebody was asking about comparison.
Yeah, I was curious about that one.
Yeah, the most effective comparison is to put the person you're talking to in the animal's position. Like you can, like I did this earlier, literally you can say to them, do me a favor, close your eyes, and just imagine yourself in the slaughterhouse in line with all the machinery and all of the animals screaming, and you hear, and you smell, and you see, you know, how does that make you feel? Like, do you want to be a part of that? Or do you not want to be a part of that? I'm not a part of that. I'm no longer a part of that. I used to be. I'm no longer a part of that. All the animals that are going through the slaughterhouse are there not because of me. I have nothing to do with it. Put the person in the position of the animals is the best comparison you can do. Better than comparing it to a dog or anything like that, because maybe they don't care about dogs either. You know? Statistics, keep them minimal. We're not there to talk about numbers and statistics because numbers change. You know, today is one thing, tomorrow is another. They may have research that's more current than yours, or you may have more. Like the numbers change. Don't get bogged down into numbers and statistics. It's not relevant. It's not relevant. Okay, conversational length. The message and the holding accountability part doesn't take that long. What do you think about what's going on here? How does it make you feel? If you ask 100 people, they're all going to say they're against animal cruelty. We're not shoving our beliefs down your throat. We're shoving your beliefs down your throat. You're telling me these are your values. You're against animal abuse and animal cruelty. But your actions speak otherwise. They are creating a demand for something that you say you're against. What does that make you? Do you want to continue to live as a hypocrite for the rest of your life? Or do you want to go be and say you're right now? How long did that take me? It doesn't take 30 minutes. If you're in a 30-minute outreach conversation, you're falling into their trap of deflection. You are basically answering all their objections, and you're doing it from a good place. I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just trying to help you remember that if your conversations are getting too lengthy, you're falling into their trap of avoiding accountability. Oh, well, what about this? Oh, well, what about that? Oh, well, what's your stance on this? Well, what about if this happens? Or how about if this? Blah, 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 blah. They're just like, you're just trying to stay here and they're trying to stay everywhere else. Okay? So, how long should a conversation be? Like, obviously I exaggerated here, right? I went through my spiel that I always go through. I think that's the most effective way to get somebody to understand something so simple, right? Now that, I did it really fast right now, but that probably could take 5 minutes, 7 minutes, you know? If a conversation goes beyond 10 minutes, maybe maximum 15, then something's going on. Something's going on, okay? Just try to keep them to the point. Get your message across. Why? Why is that important? Because time is valuable. You got your message across. What you do with that is up to you. Thank you. Next. The more people I talk to, the more success I'm going to have. Or the more, the more people that I'm going to influence and impact. If I stick with one person, there comes a point where like I'm influencing it and then it plateaus. So once you reach that plateau, it's time to move on to the next person. It's a numbers game. You're trying to get the message across to as many people as possible effectively. We talked about this. Okay, we versus you. So this is something I used to do a lot because it's just, if you're not thinking about it consciously, we will say, we will include ourselves with them, you know. Why do we eat animals? Wait a minute. I don't eat animals. Why am I saying we? Why do you and most of society eat animals? I'm giving you an example. Whenever we're talking about this, we have to remember that we're no longer a part of it. And if we say words like we are kind of normalizing it. Not we. And sometimes I'll catch myself by mistake saying we, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, not we. I am no longer a part of this. Why are you? Because the reason that we do it is because we're trying to soften it, because we don't want to sound so harsh. So when we say you, it feels like, okay, they're going to feel attacked or threatened or something like that. It is what it is. We are no longer a part of this, and we cannot include ourselves in this. So one thing that I forgot to mention that I talk a lot about is that we're not there to pander to people. We're not there to be liked. We're not there to coddle people. We're not there because of their feelings. We're not there for any other reason than to be a voice for the animals, the way the animals would want us to be a voice for them. That's all we're there for. Now, that doesn't mean be rude. That doesn't mean do things to not be liked. You know? I think I'm a likable person, even when I speak boldly. Even when I speak firm. People may not like me, and that's okay. I'm not there to be liked. So don't pander to people. Don't say things to people that you think they want to hear. Oh, you're vegetarian? Good job. You're almost there. No. Absolutely not. No. Okay, because that's condoning it.
How do you do as a vegetarian?
So when a vegetarian comes up to me, I need to figure out one or two things. No, I need to figure out one thing. Are they vegetarian for the animals, or are they vegetarian for any other reason? When they tell me they're vegetarian, I don't say, good job, you're almost there. I used to say that because I wanted to be liked. Oh, good job. You're almost there. Maybe they'll like me. No. Now what I say is, oh, you're vegetarian? That's interesting. If you don't mind my asking, why are you vegetarian? Now I'm going to hear why they're vegetarian. Oh, you know, like I'm lactose intolerant. Or, no, that would make sense. Oh, I just don't like the taste of meat. Or I don't want, you know, if they talk about anything other than animals, then I know which path to take with them. If they say something to me, well, I don't eat meat because, you know, I don't like the idea of the animals being killed. Boom. Now I have a different approach with this person. Oh, okay, thank you for sharing that with me. Maybe you're not aware that in the dairy industry, the male baby cats that are born that don't produce milk are considered a waste product and they're killed at a young age simply because they're male. Did you know that? Oh, no. The same thing happens in the egg industry. All the male baby chicks that are born. And actually, the way I'll ask it is, who lays eggs? Males or females? Females. They always answer females. Okay. So for a female to lay an egg, she has to exist. And for her to exist, she has to be born. And when she's born, there's a 50% chance she might be male. Just like every other species on this planet. So all the males that are born in the egg industry are never going to lay eggs. An industry that profits off of eggs has male baby chicks that don't produce eggs. Waste product. I don't need you. You're not going to give me eggs. They put them on a conveyor belt. They fall into a grinder and they're ground up alive. You're paying for that. And you buy eggs. So that's how I approach it. I always ask them why they're vegetarian. Not from a point of, like, if they feel that the why is coming from, like, I want to attack them, then that's a different situation. But if I ask them, oh, that's interesting, like, if you don't mind my asking, why are you vegetarian? Like, what's the reason behind that? They know that I'm genuinely interested in understanding why they're vegetarian. So that's how I handle that. Okay. Are we there to help people on how to be vegan? Or are we there to help people on why they should be vegan? Why? We're not there for the how. We can give them resources, we can give them tips, we can tell them about Happy Cow, we can give them certain you know, we can like push them in the right direction and help them, but that's not why we're there. But it's okay, we can give them those things, but we don't focus on the how. Why? Because we're living in 2023 and the how can be answered on their own. They can figure it out. I say, listen, when they start asking me too many questions, oh, well, listen, we can sit here all night and I'm happy to help you. But that's not why I'm here. You know, I just want you to understand why you should be vegan and why you have a moral obligation to be vegan. And now, once you understand that and you decide to go vegan, hopefully today, right now, once you understand that, you'll actually figure it out how to live vegan. You don't need me for the how, I tell you. I figured it out. Everybody here, they figured it out somehow. You'll figure it out, trust me, you'll figure it out. And then I'll make a joke, and I'll be like, there's this thing called Google. Great resource. Any question you have, let me answer it. Where can I go eat? Google. What products can I buy? Google. You know, just, you'll figure out the how. That's not why I'm here. I'm here for the why. I hope I helped you understand why you should be vegan. Now it's your task or your duty to figure out how. Okay? So we focus on the why and not the how. It doesn't mean we don't help them or push them in, you know, give them some resources. That's fine, but that's not why we're there. So a couple technical things while we're specific to street outreach. Maybe you already know this. I talked about building rapport and stuff like that. If the screen is here, you know, let's say the screen is here, this wall here, right? And somebody's watching. Well, obviously, you know, you're not going to approach them and like block their view, right? You want them to see. It's so much more impactful when they're hearing what you're saying while they're watching. So you don't want to block their view. You also don't want to approach them right away. Give them a chance to absorb what they're seeing. Obviously, you don't want them to walk away, but you also don't want to be like that annoying salesperson at the Macy's, you know, where like you just walk in, they're like, "Can I help you with something?" I'm like, "Dude, relax. I just got here. Let me look around," you know. So like you don't want them to get that feeling, like, you know, like, "Oh, what is he selling me? Why?" You know, they put on their defense. You know, give them an opportunity to absorb. This is what I usually do. If they're standing there, you know, I'll kind of like get close to them and I'll just like, you know, I know a lot of us don't want to watch this stuff. You don't have to look at the screen, but you can just be there, standing kind of like this, looking at it together. And then after, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you may be like, "So what do you think about this footage that you're seeing here? How does it make you feel?" You know, something like that. So you want to like, and also you don't want to be talking face to face, because that's very combative. You want to be kind of like at a 45 with them, so that they feel that you're on the same side as them. Objection handling, we kind of talked about. So if there's an objection that you don't know how to respond to, again, just say, "Would you accept that if you were the victim?" If you don't know the response to the objection, just say, "Okay, imagine that you were in the slaughterhouse and you're about to be killed, and somebody said what you just told me. As a victim, would you accept that?" You wouldn't. There you go. There's your answer. You wouldn't accept it because you want to live. Did I answer the objection? I don't even know what the objection was, but that's the answer. We talked about the benefit. The biggest benefit is you get to go to sleep at night with a clear conscience. You know you're no longer supporting animal cruelty. And then you're not living as a hypocrite. And so I did mention that, like, I will tell people that, you know, you don't have a choice to be vegan, you have a moral obligation to live vegan, starting right now. I hope you understand that. Based on what we just talked about, you don't have a right to harm others, just like nobody has a right to harm you. You don't have that right. So you have an obligation today to start living vegan and figure out how to live vegan. That's your job. My job is to make you aware of that. Okay? So that's kind of like how I close the conversation. What side of history do you want to be on? On the side of justice or on the side of excuses? That's it. Are you for justice or are you for injustice? And then I'll say, you know, like I said earlier, when I close the conversation, as soon as you leave this granted, before this conversation you didn't know, I'll grant you that. Okay, so that I'm not here to judge you. You know, I'm not judging you. And grant you that you were not aware. But you are aware now. Now you know. You can't use the I didn't know argument. That's a valid argument. I didn't know. That is a valid argument. But now you know you can't use that argument. So when you leave this conversation, you're either going to continue to be the reason these animals are harmed, enslaved, exploited, and killed, and slaughtered brutally, or you're going to go vegan. Those are your two options. There's no third option. You either continue to live as a hypocrite and cause animal suffering, or you go vegan. That's it. Those are your two options. Which one do you want? You just answer point blank. Oh, I don't know, I'll think about it. No, if you're going to think about it, I didn't do my job. There's no thinking here. If you think that one day you're going to go vegan, I didn't do my job. I didn't. You need to understand that this is something you have to do. You know, and this is how I speak to people. So, and I'll tell them, I won't blame them. If they don't get it, if they still don't get it, I don't blame them, I blame me. I'm sorry, if that's what you're thinking right now, I failed you. I didn't do my job. I failed the animals. I failed them because I didn't do my job. If this is what you're thinking right now, I failed the animals. Okay? So, AB says here to close the conversation, so keep in mind that for however long you're not vegan, animals will be abused and tortured because of you. So when you're ready to stop abusing animals and align your actions with your words, you know what to do. So think about what side of history you want to be on, you want to stand on. And so I'll tell people, thank you for this conversation. What you do with this information is totally up to you. I can't change you, I can't make you, I can't do, you know. You now know what you do with that is up to you, and it will define who you are as a person. To yourself, not to others. You have to go to sleep at night with your conscience. You know the truth now, and you know what is the right thing to do. And if you don't do it, that will define you as a person to yourself. And you will have to live that way for the rest of your life. And I'm telling you right now, the best thing that I ever did was go vegan, because I became free the moment I became vegan. And that's it. So that's how I do it. Thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for interacting and asking your questions. It's 8:30. If anybody wants to do a little role playing, or if anybody has any questions that didn't get answered, or what did you think about it? Does anybody have any comments? Yes.
We actually just came from like an anti-dairy thing, and we were doing general outreach too. And I've been doing outreach for about 2.5 years, and I pretty much easily handle most objections. But today I got the most bizarre one, which I actually had some trouble responding to. I knew this guy was full of shit, but like it was difficult to actually produce an answer. It was, I believe we were in Washington Square Park, and it was like, I think these Buddhist monks or something were doing a thing, and I knew that most of them are vegetarians, so I just kind of wanted to go like, you know, go talk about the vegetarian thing. And he was convinced that the cows that he gets dairy from are not harmed at all. And I ran him through the whole process, like, what about the male calves? He said, no, they go to a sanctuary. And then he's like, I'm like, you know, basically, I'm like, the cows live, you know, I asked him how long do the cows live. He said 20 to 30 years. I said, that's right. I said, what happens after the cows stop producing milk? He said, they go to a sanctuary. I said, what about the forcible artificial impregnation? He said, no, they're natural. They have sex naturally. Like, and then he actually gave me this website of this really like bizarre thing about this like farm sanctuary. It was like, I was actually like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Anyway, like he was basically completely convinced that like all of the typical things regarding dairy just do not apply, and that there is actually this like truly zero harm dairy farm. And I mean, I didn't really know what to say to that.
Okay, good. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things that I like to say when something like that comes up is, let me define veganism in a different way for you. You know, the basic premise of veganism, the philosophy here is that animals are on this planet with us, not for us, in any capacity. I don't care if there's, you know, you give them belly rubs before you take their milk. I don't care if they're not slaughtered. I don't care if they would have lives. You're using something that they produce for their babies. And taking that away from them goes against everything that is natural in the world. And like I said, the premise here is that animals are on this planet with us. We share this planet with them. They're not here for us in any capacity. Nothing that they produce is intended for our use. And when you consume dairy from a cow, first of all, let's take the ethics part out of it real quick. Who do cats produce milk for? Baby cats. Who do dogs produce milk for? Baby dogs. Who do giraffes produce milk for? Baby giraffes. Cows. Who do cows produce milk for? For humans? No. Every species on this planet gets weaned off of their mother's milk at a young age. We're the only species that continues drinking dairy, not only from our own species, but from another species. There's nothing natural about it, but that's not even the point. The point is that perpetuating the idea that we can take things from animals is why we're here in the first place. Why there's so much oppression around the world is because we think that we can't take something that doesn't belong to us.
Yeah, we're saying that there's a mutual beneficial relationship between the cow and the farmer.
As an example, like what mutual benefit?
Well, like he was describing, like, oh, the cows go to a sanctuary, we take care of them, like, they're not harmed, blah, blah, blah.
And then he was saying like we have to milk them because they overproduce milk, and like I don't think it's real. Like I think this is all bogus, but like it's difficult because he's like convinced that this is where his milk comes from.
Well, if he's convinced of that, then he's not full of shit because he is convinced of it. He's either convinced or not.
What?
I've been to the farm we're talking about.
Really?
Yeah, can you not agree?
That's what he said. Yes. What is it? Can you explain what is this?
Yeah, no, Hare Krishna. They believe that cows are sacred, basically. That's the question I was gonna ask you too. Is like, what about people who actually like believe that the animals are here for their purpose? Like, I know like religiously, there's a lot of that where like whether it's for meat or for dairy, they believe like deep down that this animal is here for their consumption. Like the purpose of that animal's life.
And they even call it the ahimsa rule. They
Yeah.
even have a name for it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a very good question. So okay, I believe black people are here to serve me. Who am I to define what your purpose is? Who are you to define what an animal's purpose is? I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your religion tells you to believe. You don't have a right to cause others harm, pain, suffering, and death because their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. So what you believe is almost irrelevant. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I can choose a belief that benefits me and say, I just believe it. I'm sorry, from the victim's perspective, your belief means shit to them. Excuse my language. It just does. And so, you know, your beliefs can change. You can start to believe you don't have a right to cause harm to a sentient being who has a capacity to feel pain, to suffer, and who wants to avoid harm. You can change it. No religion mandates that you eat animals or consume their products. No religion mandates it. So I ask you this. If I was in front of God, whatever God you believe in, and God said, You have the choice between eating animals and plants, or a combination of the two. I would say, thank you, God, for giving me that choice. But let me ask you, God, what choice would you prefer that I take? Even though you've given me the choice, I'm asking you, what would you prefer that I take? And loving God would probably prefer that I eat things that don't feel and suffer. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Like, am I gonna, eat a sheep or a cow or a pig that is scared, that is fighting for their life, that is begging for mercy, that is saying, please don't harm me? You think a God, a loving God, would want me to eat them when I have this choice? I understand if I didn't have this choice and I had to eat them to survive. Okay, thank you, God, for giving me, the ability to eat them because I have the power to, so that I can survive. Thank you, God, for that. If I didn't have the choice. But I have the choice. So, God, what do you prefer that I eat? Something that doesn't suffer, or somebody that does? I think God's going to say, well, if you're asking me, I'm giving you the choice to do either one, but if you want me to answer, I would prefer you eat the plants. So that the animals that express fear and love and pain don't go through those negative experiences. So no, religion mandates it, and God would prefer you choose the option that doesn't cause pain and suffering. That's my response to that question.
What about survival? I've encountered ex-vegans who will say, ex-family.
Yeah, right.
Who will say that, oh, I suffered, like my health really suffered.
Yeah.
From me being vegan. I was vegan for 2 years, but I really lost a lot of weight. Now it comes to survival now. My survival is over the animal
Sure.
survival.
Sure.
So, that's why when,
Great question. So we have to, again, in our minds think, is this a deflection, or is this a genuine concern this person had? Do they really believe that they have to eat animals for their survival? Or are they just saying that to justify their actions? Oh, I started feeling bad and I was sick, and so I started eating animals. It's possible that they just wanted to go back to their habits. They like the taste. They don't want to, say no at a barbecue or be outcasts or whatever the reasons are, or do they really believe that? So what I usually tell people is, look, I understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this. If you do some more research and figure out that you can, through proper planning of a proper plant-based diet, if you figure out that it's possible and that you can be healthy on a plant-based diet through additional research, would that change your mind? Would you go vegan then? Oh yeah, but I've done that and I got sick and I was starting to feel... Okay, well let me just put it to you this way. Over 100,000 of the world's leading experts on nutrition disagree with you. Because the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which consists of over 100,000 of the leading experts on nutrition, have unequivocally stated through a position statement that every single person on this planet can live vegan and be healthy. Every single person, there's no exceptions. So what you're telling me is in direct contrast with what the experts are saying. So what that tells me is that either you didn't have the proper resources to adequately nourish yourself, and those resources are out there. So what I would suggest to you is that you have a moral obligation to figure it out. Because it sounds to me that if you don't make the effort, you're being lazy for convenience. And convenience is not a justification for calling others harm. continue to eat them until you figure out, but you have to do the research. You can't just say, and give up. Like, if you care about justice, and if you care about the idea that injustice is wrong, then you should do all the work that you need to until you figure it out. And if you don't make that effort, then that tells me a lot about the real reasons. Because if it was me, I tell you, if it was me, if I were vegan and I started feeling sick, I wouldn't want to go back to harming animals. And if I thought that I had to survive, I would do the research to see if I actually did have to survive. And I would ask the question, what exists in animal products that I as a human require for my health and survival? What nutrients, what proteins, what is so special about the animal product that I need to survive? Do you know what the answer to that is? I would ask them, do you know what you need from animals that you need? Like what nutrient that you need? No. Well, if they say protein, they're completely ignorant. Like, but I'm talking to somebody that supposedly, like, you know, knows a little bit more because they were vegan and they started to feel sick. So I would imagine that they know the basics of protein. But the point is that, you know, I'm basically telling them, look, you have to do the work, and if you don't, that's telling me about your real reasons. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think the health one is usually BS, but it's one of the hardest ones to get someone else through because, like, you know, if it were a matter of survival, then, you know, some sort of legitimate justification would actually emerge, right? So this is the one avenue where if it were true, then they would actually present some sort of
100%.
justification, right? Even though it is not true that you actually need it, but they're the ones saying that, and then you say, well, what's a nutrient? They're like, oh, you need saturated fat in your diet, like, and then even though you don't, it starts to get into this like really complicated like nutrition discussion, and even if completely right, it's just like a very frustrating situation because they just refuse to accept
Well,
like
but then that's the
objective
question.
science.
They're basically combating you instead of saying, because the way that I phrase the question is, if you do the research and if you figure out on your own that you could be healthy as a plant, and maybe you didn't have the resources before, but if you, let's hypothetically say that you can be healthy as a vegan and you just don't know how to be healthy as a vegan. Will you do the work to figure it out so that you're not the reason that the animals are going through these, what you see on the screens? And so that'll tell me their answer. You know, are they willing to do it? And if they're not, that's not the real reason. Sorry, go ahead.
What do you think about saying, like, you know, even if it was true that it would be less healthy to be vegan, like, even if that was true, like, does that justify, like, the way that these animals are being treated in, like, factory farms and slaughterhouses?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. I don't like that because if it were true that if I was less healthy by eating vegan because there's some magical ingredient in meat that we need to be healthy and to survive, I would have to eat meat. I would have to eat animals.
I think it matters how
Because,
much.
because watch. What was I gonna say? I was at Barry University last year and I did a vegan presentation, not a workshop, but I did a presentation on veganism to a bunch of non-vegans. Okay, I was invited to speak there. And the first slide I have is about I can never go vegan since every vegan before going vegan. I tell my story about how I went vegan and all that. But in the presentation, I said to everybody, look, when it comes to health, just know this. If we had to eat animals for our health or to thrive or to survive, I wouldn't be on this stage right now because I wouldn't have a case. So I don't even want to go down that hypothetical because that actually kind of reinforces their argument a little bit and it goes against my argument because if I'm not going to get in somebody's way who's trying to survive. And if you had to survive, I wouldn't have a case. But because we don't have to, I'm an activist. If we had to, I wouldn't be an activist. I would be like, fuck, this world sucks. We're causing innocent animals harm, but we have to because designed to eat animals. But we're not. And that's why I'm here today, because I do have a case. So I don't even like to go down
Yeah,
that
but
path.
I think it needs to be more nuanced than that. Like, if it were truly, like you said, if it were truly about survival, that would be a different story. But like, if it were, he's saying, if it were just the case that you could survive and let's just be like, quote, fine, living vegan, but it were the case that if you were to eat animals, you would be like marginally more healthy, but it was not a matter of survival, it was a matter of like, say, optimization, right? Would you then say like, for example, if someone said like, oh, like I slaughter mentally disabled people who have the mental capacity of a cow because I want to be marginally more healthy, you know,
Right.
would you accept that
I
justification?
get it,
I
but
think
these
you
are
would say like,
hypotheticals that
you
are
would say
just
no.
so far out, that they're kind of like, they're just not realistic. It's like, I would not, like, how is a mentally capacitated person gonna make me healthy? Like, that doesn't exist. Like,
Well,
I don't
because
even wanna
it's
go down
testing,
that
it's
path.
testing.
It's a
the
philosophical question, I get it. It's a philosophical question, but I just don't like to go down that path
Yeah.
because it's gonna get lengthy and I'm not getting to the point that I wanna get to. And I understand what you're saying 100%, but I try to avoid situations like that because then we go down into a philosophical, and you know how that can go.
Can I give you another different,
Yeah.
situation?
Sure.
Of what someone could say, so like, what if, say it was like the setting was like a cube and we're doing outreach to someone and we're talking about like animals and what they go through, and you know, our whole spiel is, you know, these are the standards of animal agriculture, so this is what happens, you know, all the time. So, but what if someone is like, yeah, I get what you're saying and I'm listening to you, but like, say I'm halal and I want to eat products that are halal, and we don't do stuff like this that you're showing on the screens. Like, you know, halal is not like that. What would you say to someone who like brings that up?
I have a video on exactly that. You wanna see it?
Sure.
It's an outreach video that I did.
Is it a video of halal slaughter?
No, it's a video of me outreaching somebody with that exact objection.
Yeah.
If I can find it quickly, I'll show it. If I can't, I'll just tell you the story.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm running. So then they go worry that, I mean, that's what I think. Well, I can share it with you and then you can share it with everybody. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it, but, yeah, so basically it's the humane and the halal question, all that kind of stuff. So there's a couple things to say there is, if we start telling them about how halal doesn't actually do what they think it does, we enter into a debate and an argument because they're like the experts, it's their X% of the time, it doesn't happen the way that you think it happens, the animals do see each other, blah, blah, blah. So, because I overheard another outreacher kind of like going down that path, and then he got stumbled because he doesn't actually know too much about it. So avoid that. What I would say is, can you repeat the question real quick?
Yeah, like, so we're telling them about the standard practices and they're like, yeah, this is terrible, but.
Right. I really wish I could find that video, but basically what we say is this. At the end of the day, you're taking their life from them when you don't have to. It's that simple. You don't have to. You can, we're all vegan here, we're all alive, and we're thriving, and you don't have to, right? So you're doing something that you don't have to, and that action is taking the life, which is all they have, is taking their life from them. And they want to live, your lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. So I don't care if you give them a belly rub for an hour before you slaughter them. It doesn't matter how well you treat the animals. What matters is that you have another option. You're basically presenting two options. Brutally inhumanely slaughter them, or humanely slaughter them. Those are the two options you're presenting. But I'm presenting to you a third option that you're ignoring. You can brutally slaughter them, you can humanely slaughter them, which I disagree, there's no such thing, but let's pretend that there's a way to humanely slaughter them. You can brutally slaughter them, you can humanely slaughter them, or you cannot slaughter them. What's the best option of the three for the animal? Not for you, for the animal. Now slaughter them. So I don't care how well you do it. You don't have to, and therefore you shouldn't. That's that simple.
Yeah, they're trying to parse out, like, or decouple the suffering and the death. So, like, when we show these videos, we're clearly showing that they're dying and they're suffering, and they're saying, well, like, what if we were capable of separating the two and remove the suffering and just do the death, right? And then I think you're right in what you said. I think maybe they won't accept that because of, like, their speciesism. They believe that, like, that because of their specific species that they don't have a right to their own life. It could be good. I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but alternatively, you could show them how, like, make their view of, like, of death without suffering is inconsistent in other areas. Like, for example, like, if you said, okay, like, if someone was asleep and you took a pistol and just, like, clean shot them in the head, and, like, there's no fear, they didn't even know they died, right? Like, would you consider this a justifiable action? And, I mean, most sane people would say absolutely not, right?
Yeah,
Okay, sure, so, like, let's say I shoot, like, a dog, and like, you don't like the dog comparisons, I don't know, but, like, the dog's asleep, you shoot him in the head, they have no idea. Most people will be like, dude, what the fuck, right? So, you could show them.
If they see that as you're doing it for no reason,
Yeah.
why would you kill the dog?
Yeah.
You know? But killing a pig has a reason to feed him. You know? So, but what do you think about my response, which said they want to live and their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you? So if somebody came, forget the dog scenario, if somebody came to you in your sleep and killed you without you feeling a thing, would you be okay with that? No. What if it was Jeffrey Dahmer and he ate you? He used your body for his purpose, right? You would not be okay with that.
My only point is to point out the inconsistency
Yeah.
in their logic,
There's
right?
many ways to go about it, but I hope I answered the question that it's not, we do talk about suffering and we do show a lot of suffering because
That's
the reality is that that's mostly what happens. But like hunting, for example, it's like they also suffer, right? Because, but like, let's say you hit the perfect shot and they like don't even know that they're dead. It's still wrong because you took their life. You don't have to. Keyword. That's why I wanted to show this video because I had a group of about 15 people at a cube. Like they were all together, and they were all like between maybe, I don't know, 16 and 20 years old, and they were, you know how they are. So they were like, and so they were like talking to one of our outreachers, and because he's one person and there are 15 of them, he was saying really good things, like things that we need to say. but it was going in one ear and out the other. Like, they were just not listening, they were interrupting him, it didn't matter what his responses were to their questions, nothing mattered, all they wanted to do was be heard and be louder. So I came in and I asked him with his permission, because we should not be interrupting or jumping into outreach conversations unless we're invited by somebody, because they can feel like, wait a minute, I was just outreaching this person, why are you jumping into my conversation? So we shouldn't do that. But in this situation, I asked him because I felt that it was like overwhelming. And because like, I'm like, you know, I knew he would appreciate it to see how I would handle the situation. So I basically, you know, let them finish talking. They were talking about halal and all that kind of stuff. And then I said, okay, everybody, listen up real quick. Give me a second to speak. Please don't interrupt. I'm going to address what you're saying. I have two things to say. Just hear me out before you interrupt, and everybody just shut up and gave me their full attention, right? And so I said, I have two things to say. The key here is necessity. Do we need to kill these animals for our health or survival? We don't. We just don't, okay? So, and then I went into that, what I just said. It's like, if we don't need to, then doing so is wrong, no matter how nicely you do it. Because you're taking their life from them, and they want to live. They want to experience this world in their life in their own way. And they have the right to. We're not giving these rights, we have these rights. The difference between animals and humans, we have the same rights. I'm not talking about voting rights and none of that, I'm talking about basic universal rights. We have the same rights. The difference between humans and non-human animals is that our rights, for the most part, in modern day society, there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot, but for the most part, our rights are protected. Their rights are not, at all. So, if I go kill a human, I'm going to pay the consequences. If I go kill a pig, I get paid for it. That's the difference. So, you know, that's how I would answer that. Yes?
I have a question. I wanted your thoughts on something kind of related to what we were talking about earlier, in terms of like killing humans humanely or like pigs or dogs. If it does arise naturally in a conversation, do you think it's effective to go down the whole name the trade route, that kind of path, and start comparing humans and animals during like, when you're talking to the average person in outreach?
So, that's a good question. I haven't thought about it. I haven't gone that route. Because I haven't seen it. Have you seen it being done
I personally
effectively?
don't use it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I do outreach, when I do AV, I don't use it that much.
I do see a lot of people use it, but I haven't seen it being done effectively. Like, I don't see how it's working. So I'd rather go down the path that I'm explaining here. Because name the trade, you know, we're just gonna, I don't like it personally, but maybe for some people it works.
No, I think I agree with that. I just wanted your thoughts.
Yeah. I don't go down that route.
What is mean?
It's basically, I'm probably gonna give the best explanation, but it's like when you basically compare the traits and the attributes of a human versus a non-human animal.
Correct.
And then really ask the person that you're outreaching, okay, what's really the difference between the two that would necessitate us slaughtering an animal and doing all the things we do to an animal but not a human?
And so usually they'll say, well, we're human. Well, but that's not naming the trait. Name the trait, right? And, oh, we're more intelligent. Okay? So you're more intelligent than him. Does that give you the right to, you know, harm him? Because you're more, there's levels of intelligence. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, did you know that pigs are more intelligent than dogs? And so then we start going down that debate path that I try to avoid at all costs. So I don't even like to go there, to be honest. But
This is off topic from outreach, and it's a little bit out of left field, but this is a rare situation being in like a room full of animal rights activists. So I was curious of taking sort of a poll or like gauging people's like thoughts on the matter. I'm like fairly concerned that this topic specifically is going to escalate to like human on human violence. Like as this situation becomes more well known and there's more vegans, basically like it will get to the point where there's enough of us where we feel more confident in like escalating the situation to be like, hey, you have no right to do this for real. Like,
Yeah,
or we're gonna-
legislative change.
or, no, like, we're gonna get physical with you. Like, for example, like, like, there was this sanctuary in Italy where the police came in and they, like, stormed and they killed the pig in the sanctuary, right? Because there was a mandate in Italy that they had to, like, slaughter
Right,
all the
yeah.
pigs, right? So, because, like, the modern society, like, how they view this is that they have, like, such a right to take these animals' life that they're, like, the level of aggression that they're, like, willing to go to is just so outlandish that, like, once there's enough vegans, it's like, we're gonna push back beyond, hey, I'm gonna show you some TVs on the street, and it's like, get your hands off this animal or we're gonna get violent, right? So, like, if you look at other injustices in the past, like civil rights, I mean, we were spraying people down with hoses and stuff. So, I'm not saying it is gonna get violent, I'm just saying, personally, looking at the situation objectively, like, I'm relatively nervous that, like, this is gonna get, like, extremely serious, like human on human.
Well, ALF doesn't
Yeah,
have
and the
violence, but like,
ALF
they
is
don't
like
target
the
like
beginnings
human
of-
lives and stuff like that, but, you know, property damage or hurting a business
Mhm.
bottom line and stuff like that. So there's some violence that I'm actually okay with, right? Now, when it comes to harming others, it goes against the concept of veganism, right? Now, I have a right to try to protect, you know, and Wayne is fighting through this right now, the right to rescue, right? So we should have a right to protect others. Now, at what cost? Like, you know, can I harm somebody from protecting? Like, in the street I could. Like, if somebody comes and tries to kill you and I tackle them and I kill them,
This
I'm a
is my
hero,
point,
right? But because that's accepted in society, that he doesn't have a right to kill you. When there's enough vegans, we'll create enough legislative change that we will have, I believe that we will have the animals' rights protected. And it's going to be a slow process, but obviously this is why outreach is so important, because we don't know who we're impacting and what kind of an impact we're having. If I outreach Earthling Ed and he goes viral and he has a huge influence on a bunch of people, it's raising the numbers, and the more vegans and animal rights people that exist, the easier. I think there's a stat in social justice movements that we need 10% of the population in order to create legislative change. And we're not anywhere near there yet, so we got to get there. Once we get there, then the laws will protect them, and then we won't have to be violent. And there's, you know, there's a whole Martin Luther King, the non-violent, you know, civil disobedience and social justice and all that kind of stuff. So I'm totally anti, you know, violence. Like when we do disruptions in South Florida at Louis Vuitton, you know, we do disruptions, but we, you know, emphasize on not retaliating. You know, a guy spit in my face the other day. I wanted to take a megaphone and just shove it in his face and cause some serious damage, and I held back because I'm preaching this, and so I need to act in accordance with that. So I swallowed my, you know, what I needed to swallow, and instead of reacting in that way, I used that moment to project through my words. I've just been spit on. This guy just gave me the finger, but that is not going to deter us. We will continue to fight on behalf of the victims. We will continue to be here as much as we can until we accomplish our mission. We will not be deterred by your violence. We are a non-violent organization. So I turned it around, used that. Trust me, I'm human. I wanted to retaliate and fight and be violent towards him. He spit in my face.
Well, I'm not talking about retaliation, I'm talking about defense, right? So like, again, like taking this from the animal's position, like if, say there were enough vegans to say defend an animal, right? Like let's take the position of like the Italian police coming in and forcibly shooting the pig in the sanctuary, right? And let's say that there is a situation where, at least in like a small setting, there's enough vegans where like physically defending an animal is an option, right? Like would you as the animal accept saying, well, like no, don't physically defend me because like that's quote violent, right? Like you would be like, no, the just thing is for you to take up arms and like defend my life, right?
Defense is different. If I'm protecting someone, right, and somebody's being violent towards me,
yeah,
and my life and my body and my person is in danger, I have to protect myself. I didn't go there to be violent. But I may have to defend myself. But yeah, I think that's
Okay,
kind of
so,
like,
so I think your answer is no, that you're not worried. I'm just saying I am worried. Like,
Oh.
I do think what we stumbled upon is not just any run-of-the-mill social justice issue. Like, when humanity looks back at like this era in history, like this will be the issue that defines this entire period in history. Like, there will only be one big issue that we were dealing with, and it was this. Like, there are other major social justice issues, like we're all on the same page that the world is very far from perfect. I'm just saying, like, this is the big one.
yeah, I mean,
And I'm just
what
like,
is my opinion? I don't know what could happen. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either. I was curious because like I don't think this is gonna end pretty.
No, well, I mean, sometimes things have to
Yeah.
get really bad before they get better. And I do believe that it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But it will get better, like, the needle is always moving towards justice. It's a slow process, but it's moving in that direction. And, you know, I think a vegan world, because of the concept of non-harming others, would extend to everybody. Like, if we can just basically understand that nobody has a right to harm others, regardless of species, race, sex, or orientation, or anything like that, this would be a great world. But, you know, it starts with veganism, I think, because we're born into a society where we're taught that it's okay to harm and kill and eat and use and wear animals. But, any other questions? We were gonna do some role playing, but I guess we kind of did do it here. You were asking questions and then you heard my response. Does anybody actually want to do any role playing? You want to try it out, test it out? You want to be the outreacher and I'll be the outreached? You want to try it?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Do you have an objection or a situation that you find challenging or difficult?
Yeah, I feel like when Jews say that we eat meat and we sacrifice like, animals and you just bring up meat, I feel like it's really hard for me to talk to them about it.
But what is their objection?
I know, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay. So it's like a more of a religious
It's
objection?
religious, yeah, they say the animal, when we eat the animal, we're elevating the animal's life. And we're using that elevation,
All right, no.
we're using that energy to serve God.
Okay.
And then
You-
need to, right? And we say need, why do you need to? So the need to could be, my religious text says, I need to sacrifice the animal.
Yeah.
And what's your argument for
Okay.
that?
Do you want to be the outreacher or do you want to be outreached?
I want to be honest.
You want to be outreached? Okay, so you're telling me that, so what is your objection?
So when I
So,
eat the animal,
we're having an outreach conversation right now, there's a screen here. Okay, go.
okay, I know that seems bad, okay, let's say in my religion, that we chop the animal's throat 2 seconds, and that has to be super, super sharp. Close the animal's eyes and kill it, and kill him, her, and that's how we do it, and it elevates us, it gives us energy to do more mitzvahs, more good deeds.
Alright, you're gonna be the outreacher. Because I want you to practice. I've
Okay.
already given you my thing.
Okay.
So yeah, in my religion, you know, like we use a very sharp knife. We kill them in a second. They don't even know they're dead. And you know, it actually elevates us and it elevates the animals, and you know, they serve their purpose. You know, like it's unfortunate what's happening, and this isn't the way that we do it. You know what I mean? Like you're showing this is propaganda. This isn't the way that we do it. We do it in the right way. Okay, so you know, that's why I'm going to continue to do it. I'm not going to go vegan because, like, you know, it elevates me, and my religion says I can do it.
I kind of know, I feel like I know the answers to this, like, it's, at the end of the day,
No,
it's that.
no. We're outreaching.
Okay.
Don't give me any
Okay.
of that. Just
So
outreaching.
so that animal has its whole life, that animal covets its life. And when you take away its life, from that animal, you're taking away its whole experience. You're taking away that animal's experience of life, and that.
Yeah, but God gave us these animals for us, so like, you know, who am I to question God? You know, God allowed it, I'm not here to question God. So, you know, well, why are you questioning God? Who are you? You're just a human mortal. You know, like, I'm not gonna question God. God said I can do it.
God said you could, doesn't mean you should.
Well, but if God said I could, then it means that I could. Like,
Right.
I only answer to God, I don't answer to you. Like, God is telling me that I can do it, so I can do it.
So yeah, I have an issue with that. Like, I don't know exactly where to go right now from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't really outreach.
Does anybody want to try to be the outreacher?
I'd like to know the answer to this, sir.
I kind of already gave it earlier.
I know, what would God do?
Either that, well, either that, that's like my second option.
I feel like the approach is, you know, people can just give these like things where they create a huge conceptual wall that is completely impenetrable, right? And what you need to do is you need to get that person to, you know, question that, and that requires that person to like talk a lot. You know, so there's no real like right answer.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay? So I understand what you're saying, and I've heard it before, actually, you know, I've heard from other religious groups kind of telling the same thing about halal and, you know,
It's not the same thing.
kosher. I understand, but like, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same concept, you're talking about elevating yourself and all that. Okay, I get all that, okay, I get it. However, I am here to be a voice for the animals whose lives are being taken from them, and they wish to live. Okay, so that's my role here. So like, you're giving me a situation where you're trying to justify taking someone's life when you don't need to. I understand that God said you can, but you don't need to. God doesn't mandate you to do it, as far as I know. There's no mandate in any religion for you to take the life of an animal. Okay? So,
Where do you go? Okay, so my parents would say, oh, how do you know the animal wants to die? Can the animal talk?
okay,
And then my family doesn't really have much experience with animals, so they don't know if like, they've never seen an animal go to the slaughterhouse and try to run away, try to go away from the knife. So how do you explain that to them?
okay, perfect. So, animals do talk in a different language. Okay? They show us through their expressions and mannerisms and actions and behaviors what they're experiencing. Okay? So, an animal, and tell me this, do you think that an animal will do everything in their power to avoid being killed? Okay, so the animal is telling you.
I guess, but like, does the animal really know what a knife is?
It doesn't matter. The
It
animal,
would, yeah.
the animal would try to avoid being harmed because they understand that I'm being harmed right now. I don't know what a knife is. I don't understand language. I don't know English. I don't know these tools that humans have created. I don't know any of that. But what I do know is that something is not right. I'm being harmed. I'm scared. And I want to leave this situation if I could, but I can't because I'm enclosed. I wish somebody was here to help me. But I'm scared and I don't want to die and I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, animals are sentient, which means that they have the ability to feel and to understand pain and to suffer. And they wish to avoid these things. They are telling us. Whether you want to believe it or not, like, it's convenient for you to say, well, animals don't really know. Well, that's convenient for you as the oppressor. You're the oppressor in this. You don't want to be oppressed. You've been oppressed for millennia, okay? Okay? So you don't want to be oppressed, but for some reason you're okay with oppressing others.
That's each of that person. Yeah.
Okay? So you kind of like related to them somehow, that that, oh, wait a minute, I'm the oppressor? Are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my language. Are you kidding me right now? We've been oppressed, and then they turn it into a human race thing, you know? And it's like, no, what I'm saying is, I agree that you've been oppressed, and it's been wrong, and you shouldn't be oppressed, and nobody should be oppressed. We are anti-oppression across the board, including animals. Okay? So, we believe that you shouldn't be oppressed, but we also believe that you should not oppress others. And there's no justification to do so. In the name of God, in the name of religion, I don't care. Those are your beliefs. Your beliefs do not grant to you. I don't care what you believe. From the animal's perspective, they don't care what you believe. They want to live. Period. End of story. And that's
You're
it.
totally right. It's just very, very hard because if you look at in Judaism, the rabbis, they're like the most holy of the whole community, of all the people, and they eat.
Not all rabbis.
Not all.
There are vegan rabbis.
Most of the rabbis.
But there are vegan animal rights rabbis.
Yeah, I know.
So you can reach out to them, you know, if that's an area that you want to learn more about, because again, like I said earlier, there are pro-life vegans, there are pro-choice vegans, there are rabbis that are vegans, there are rabbis that are not vegans. So like, if a rabbi can be vegan, so can you. He can say, my God tells me I can do this, but he's choosing not to. And he's a rabbi. So why can he do it, but you can't?
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
I want to ask you, like, if there are things that you say that, like, or like maybe tips when it comes to confidence. I mean, for me, one thing that I've just like realized is that, you know, just with time and like patience, sometimes, actually almost always when I show up to a queue, I start out like really slow, because I'm like, I don't know, like nervous.
Yeah.
And then like I build confidence over time. And I think that like, if you could talk about like, you said it near your conclusion, you were saying, like, basically you were kind of like, demonstrating how you concluded with people and say like, you know this now, right, like, and this will like say something about you, right? Because I've had similar, interactions like that before where I kind of get on that rhythm, but I haven't had one like for a while. So yeah, I don't know, if you have tips about like confidence.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know how long you've been in the animal rights movement, but when I started and I didn't have the tools, so the purpose of this workshop is to provide you with some tools to give you confidence. Because when I started, I was scared. I didn't know what to say. I was afraid I might say the wrong thing. I didn't know what the correct answer was. What if they ask me something and I don't know how to respond? What if they get, belligerent? What if they get angry? What if, like all these what ifs were in my head, and I was just trying to avoid it. So I would just go to the cube, and I hope I can just be in the queue. No, I'm here. I can be here for 2 hours. That's all good. I didn't want to go outside. Okay? In our cubes in South Florida, we rotate everybody every 20 to 30 minutes. Because if you're in there too long, a lot of people actually pass out. It's happened a lot in our cubes. There's no circulation in the legs and in the body, and it's too much. So we force people to come in and out. Now, if they come out and they're not comfortable outreaching, we're not forcing them to outreach because we want them to get comfortable. And we say, we'll shadow somebody. Now, to build somebody's confidence is to shadow somebody or to attend a workshop, so that when you go out, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. I play poker professionally, right? I hired a coach, and I've been working with my coach for the last 6 months. We've done a lot of work together. We've really, I've seen the progress and the improvement. The last session that we had was so great. I can't wait to go and play in my next tournament, because I wanna employ all these things that I've learned and that I now know that I didn't know before. I can't wait. So hopefully this workshop gives you that kind of same motivation or inspiration. It's like, oh, I heard of these things. I can't wait to go out and test these things. So it's, this alone, or coming here, so I thank you for coming here, because I think this alone should help build that confidence. And another thing that that helps is to remember that, without you, there is no progress. Like, you're part of something incredible, in that no matter if your voice shakes, it's okay. It doesn't matter. If you're not sure what to say, if you have a bad conversation, if it didn't go well, if you didn't hold somebody accountable, if somebody insulted you, or, there's plenty of these conversations that happen all the time. But you know what? You push through it. Because without you, the progress is slower. You are part of the movement that is needed in order to get to where we're trying to get to. And I believe that we will get there. So, I don't know if that answers your question. I think that confidence comes from, so not having confidence comes from, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a word like when you don't know things, when you don't... Uncertainty, okay? So when you have certainty, you have confidence. So now you know that if somebody approaches you with any objection, or with any attitude, or with in any situation, if you're not sure, you just say, look, my friend, I understand what you're saying, okay, I hear you, but from the perspective of the victim, that doesn't justify it. They don't care. They don't care what you're saying right now. They want to live. Their lives matter to them. So I go through the whole thing. I just say the same thing over and over and over. Their lives matter to them as much as your life matters to you. You don't have a right to harm anybody, just like nobody has a right to harm you, period. That's it. So it doesn't even matter. Like, if you can get used to saying those same things over and over and over again, practice makes perfect, right? Like, you're gonna get really good at it. You're gonna know when and how to insert those comments. Because it is a game, it is a strategy. Like, you can't just go up to somebody and start saying these things. You gotta hear them out, listen, understand where they're coming from, and you will get good at figuring out when and how to say these things. It will just happen, but you just gotta keep practicing, and know you're gonna fail, and know you're gonna be, say some things that might be embarrassing. Like, you might say something like, what the hell was I thinking? That came out wrong. That's okay. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the better and the more confident you'll get at that. I hope that answered your question. Practice makes perfect. Just keep doing it. Keep being a voice for the animals. Always remember that the animals need us. Like, I always tell people, you think I want to be an activist? I tell the story about how I became vegan. My brother always had a separate dish at the table because he was vegan. And I was like, dude, why are you always eating different than us? Like, what's going on here? He's like, I'm vegan. I'm like, you're what? You're bacon? What? I didn't even know what that was. And he started to tell me some things, and I said to him, dude, brother, I respect what you're doing, but I could never go vegan. And now look at me, is what I tell her. Not only did I go vegan, now I'm out here on the streets talking to complete strangers. So if you think that you can never go vegan, I'm an example of somebody that used to think I could never go vegan. And not only did I go vegan, I became a voice for the animals. Do you think I want to be an activist? You don't think I'd rather be at the beach right now, having a few drinks with some, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be doing other things. But I feel that the animals need me, because they can't be out here picketing. If they could, please stop harming us, please stop killing us. If they could, they would, but they can't. So who's going to be out here for them? Who's going to be their voice? I don't want to be here, but I have no choice. And you give me no choice, because you are causing them harm. And so I'm trying to help them, and I'm trying to help you. And so that's why I'm here, but I don't want to be here, honestly. I'd rather be doing something else, is what I tell people. I wish we lived in a world free of oppression, free of harm, free of suffering, but that's not the world that we live in. And the animals don't have a voice. All other social justice movements are important. Because I fight for animals doesn't mean that I don't care about humans. In fact, people I was at an Orlando Supercube a few years ago, and these 3 people came up to me and they said, well, what about the homelessness issue? Why aren't you fighting for them? Because they have a homelessness issue, right? So I was like, okay, how do I answer this? This was like years ago, so I wasn't like as experienced as I am now. Like I had to think about how to answer it, and I said, okay, look, listen. Let's pretend that I was out here fighting for the homelessness. What's to stop you from coming to me and saying, what about the children in Syria? Why don't you fight for the children in Syria? And then let's pretend hypothetically that I was fighting for the children in Syria. What's to stop you from coming to tell me, what about the homelessness? What about the home? So I can fight for something. You can always point to another injustice somewhere and say, what about them, and what about them, and what about them? You know? It's like, okay, and this is what I tell people. Are you responsible for the suffering of the children in Syria? No. Okay, are you responsible directly for the homelessness problem that we have here right now? No. Okay, so you want me to fight for a group of people who are suffering that have nothing to do with you and that you're not responsible for their suffering. You want me to fight for them, but you have a problem with me fighting for animals who you are responsible for their suffering. I don't know how convenient that. Is it possible that you just are trying to deflect and trying to basically, you don't want me to be a voice for the victims of your abuse? You want me to be the voice for the victims of other people's abuse because you're not abusing them. Because that way you don't have to do anything, you don't have to change. If I fight for the children in Syria, you're going to be like, good job, guy. You're going to keep walking. And then if you see me the next week fighting for the homelessness, you're going to be like, good job, keep it up, good, good. And you're going to keep walking. But then when I fight for the animals, you're going to be like, hey, what about this? Because you're not responsible for them, for their suffering. That's not how it works. All right? Are we good? Shall we call it a night?
Thank you, everybody.
9:30?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. By the way, if anybody wants to reach out to me through, if you have a situation that you want to go over, you can always reach me on social media through Vegan Willow on Instagram, Vegan WILO. Send me a message, say, hey, I came into this situation. What do you think about how I handled it, or how would you handle it, or what do you think? If you want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me. Vegan Willow, WILO.
Follow Vegan Willow, everyone. Follow Vegan Willow
Vegan Willow.
on Instagram.
I'm curious, what was your turning point? Like, you said your brother was vegan.
Okay, so when he talked to me, I wish I could go back and see what it is that he said to me. I don't remember, but he said something that triggered me to, be like, what is vegan is probably what I put in Google, and it's like, and I went down the rabbit hole. And then I started to see these like videos and slaughterhouses, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, how come I never seen this before? I'm 42 years old, I've never seen this before. Like, why? And then I recognized that the industry and society keeps us wanting to this, right? And so I was still not vegan, but I was starting to get angry as to why this was shielded from me my whole life. Why is this happen? So then I watched Gary Yourofsky's Just Speech. Over here. I remember the day, I don't remember the date. But I remember I watched.
What's up, everybody?
1-hour video.
Hope you all enjoyed that live stream. Thanks for tuning in. That was Juan and Dara, South Florida, vegan animal rights activist. Coming at you is Vegan Willow on Instagram, Vegan WILO. Make sure you all go follow him. And this is a workshop about advocating for, effectively advocating for animals. So thank you everybody for watching, and let us know what you thought about the presentation by Juan, and let us know if you want us to do another one. And CDA, thank you for being here since the beginning. I appreciate you. Salute. Hope everything's good with you. And yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna put this up. I'm gonna leave this up on YouTube so y'all can see it later. And I'm gonna start posting more content on YouTube. So thank you everybody for your support. Appreciate you checking out the live stream. And yeah, it's been real. All right, have a good night, everybody. I'm trying to read your message right now. CDA, my chat is kind of messed up.
That's important, like, if you got something out of it,
right? But like, at what point do you stop negotiating and you start saying like, we need to stop this?
My chat is messed up right now, CDA. I can't see your message. I know you said something.
Well, I'm not gonna call them violence, because like, for example,
I'm trying to see if I can get your message. It's not working for me right now.
If I need it, I'll just always come get it.
if we're not doing
with respect,
but I mean, like,
Something about energy. Something about energy. I'm sorry, CDA. It's not letting me see your message. But I appreciate you watching. I hope you got something out of it. And leave a comment if you got something like important that you have to say about the presentation or just what you thought about it. And I'll definitely check out your comment and I can respond there. So we're gonna end the live stream now. Peace out, everybody. And let us know if you think we should do it again or what you want to see from the channel. All right, peace out, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you again.